Chapter 154. The sun was already rising from the east. He had to return to the House of Chivalry's imperial capital as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain all of this. Of course, Lin Muyu was confident that he would not be held responsible for sending the 3 maidservants away. This was because he could tell that Jiang really needed his strength. Otherwise, when he killed Shihai, Jiang would have given the order to get rid of him. He rushed back to the House of Chivalry's imperial capital without stopping. However, when he was halfway up the mountain, he saw a group of people busy with something at the edge of the cliff. They seemed to be very noisy. Lin Muyu hurriedly urged his horse over and saw a shocking scene. There was a dead tree at the edge of the cliff, and there was a person hanging under it. There were 2 arrows stuck in the person's chest, and the blood seemed to have dried up. The clothes on his upper body had been stripped off, and there were 2 vultures perched on his shoulders. The vultures were lowering their heads and pecking at the flesh on the wound on his shoulder. Every peck made the person tremble in pain. Taking a closer look at his boots, there was a small E character embroidered on them. This pair of boots looked very familiar. It was Luo Yu's. Luo Yu. Lin Muyu rushed forward and flipped off his horse. He suddenly opened his hands and activated a wave of battle energy, sending the vultures flying far away. He leaped up and the green vines of the gourd martial spirit extended from the cliff and bound Luo Yu's body. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed and cut the iron chains. The gourd vines slowly retracted and Luo Yu was saved from the cliff just like that. Luo Yu was already extremely weak. She opened her eyes slightly and saw Lin Muyu's angry face in the dazzling sunlight. It was as if she had seen a glimmer of hope. She said, "Master Lin Yen, you're back. What happened?" Lin Muyu's eyes were cold as she looked at her surroundings and shouted, "What exactly happened? Who did this to Luo Yu? Tell me now." The group of unaffiliated warriors and venerable ones remained silent. Only a golden venerable warrior walked out with a broadsword in his arms and said, "Lord Lin Yen, Luo Yu, the Yu emissary, has hidden 114 diamond coins in the North Mountain. The great Yu emissary has already found out about it. Hence, Luo Yu has been stripped of his position as the Yu emissary and has been exiled by the House of Chivalry. The great Yu emissary has personally ordered Luo Yu to be hung at the edge of the cliff and let the eagles and griffins eat his body. Lord Lin Yen, I advise you to release him. This is punishment for his betrayal." This Jin Zun ranger was obviously one of Ji Yang's men. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so hostile to Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu looked at the weak Luo Yu and couldn't help but feel a little heartache. Luo Yu was probably the only person in the House of Chivalry who still had a conscience. It was a pity that he ended up like this. Thinking about it carefully, this probably had something to do with him. If he had suggested taking the 228 diamond coins for himself, Luo Yu wouldn't have suffered such a disaster. No, Qin went in lightly shook his head. Lifting his hand, he removed the cloak behind him and wrapped it around Luo Yu's body. He said to the Golden Exalt Ranger, "No matter what, I will protect Luo Yu's life. This is something I must do as his friend." The Jin Zun Ranger snorted coldly, "Is that so? Master Lin Yen, you could have been promoted to Ranger Envoy in 3 days. Why would you give up your bright future for a traitor like Luo Yu?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. His Do Chi was enshrouding his body and the aura of a heaven realm expert filled the air. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he growled, "Luo Yu didn't betray anyone. Listen up, he didn't betray anyone." The group of Golden Venerable, Silver Venerable, and Bronze Venerable wanderers were dumbfounded. None of them had expected Lin Muyu to have such an imposing manner. The way she looked at them made it seem as though she had never placed them in her eyes. Under Lin Muyu's imposing manner, these arrogant people actually felt as though they were ants. Perhaps it wasn't an illusion. "Lin Yen." Luo Yu raised his hand with difficulty and grabbed onto Lin Muyu's wrist. "You have to be careful." What he meant was self-evident. Luo Yu was punished for embezzling diamond coins, and Lin Muyu had also embezzled 114 diamonds. If they were to talk about the crime, Lin Muyu's crime was no less than his. At this moment, Lin Muyu had already helped Luo Yu onto the horse. She flipped onto the horse and galloped up the mountain toward the headquarters. The horse was indeed a good horse. It kept snorting. It had already galloped for an entire night, but now it had to carry 2 people up the mountain with it. It was really tough on it. Lin Yan, Master Jin Zun has returned. Someone in the square of the headquarters announced loudly. From afar, the Grand Travel Envoy's throne had already been moved to the outside of the headquarters. A group of high-level rangers stood around it. Ji Yang sat on the throne with his eyes narrowed. He didn't even look at Lin Muyu. Li Qianxuan sat at the side and looked at Lin Muyu and Luo Yu with a cold smile on her face. Whoosh! Lin Muyu helped Luo Yu get off the horse. She slowly walked forward and helped Luo Yu sit on the ground. She cupped her fists and said calmly, "Master Grand Travel Envoy, Lin Yan wants to save Luo Yu's life." "Is that so?" Ji Yang opened his eyes and looked at Lin Muyu with a cold smile. His gaze seemed to see through all of her thoughts, causing Lin Muyu's heart to tremble. No, Ji Yang's realm was higher than hers. She couldn't let his soul control her thoughts. Therefore, she hurriedly used the spirit pulse technique to clear her mind. She cupped her fists and continued, "I am Luo Yu's best friend. Since Luo Yu has made a mistake, I should bear the consequences as well. Please, Grand Travel Envoy, retract your order and spare Luo Yu's life." "Spare Luo Yu's life?" Ji Yang abruptly slammed his palm on the table, turning it into dust in the blink of an eye. His face was full of anger as he stood up. His battle energy swirled around his body. This was a battle energy that was definitely stronger than Lin Muyu's. He was at the 2nd level of the Heaven Realm. Ji Yang didn't hide his anger at all. He said coldly, "Luo Yu embezzled 110,000 Jinin coins. As a Grand Travel Envoy, how could he do such a despicable thing? Lin Yan, tell me, how can I let Luo Yu go?" Lin Muyu's eyes were cold. She raised her head and looked at Ji Yang. She didn't back down at all. "Grand Travel Envoy, please tell me. How can I let Luo Yu go? I will listen to you." "Very well." Ji Yang smiled faintly. "I'll spare Luo Yu's life, but your life, Lin Yan's, is mine. How about it?" "All right." Lin Muyu clenched her fists, which were trembling slightly. "Very well." Ji Yang laughed heartily. "I hereby announce that Lord Lin Yan is officially promoted to Grand Travel Envoy, becoming one of the 2 envoys of the main altar. The altar will open in the afternoon, and we will swear an oath of blood." "Swear an oath of blood." Lin Muyu was taken aback. Luo Yu shook his head slowly. "Lin Yan, don't, it's fine." Lin Muyu nodded and said in a clear voice, "I will listen to Grand Travel Envoy's orders." "Very well." Lin Muyu helped Luo Yu to sit at the side. He took out a bottle of healing medicine and applied it to his wounds. Luo Yu's face was full of pain as he said, "Lin Yan, you really shouldn't have agreed to their oath of blood." "Why?" "Because..." There was a hint of pain on Luo Yu's face as she said, "There are many heroes in Lingnan. Ji Yang was originally from Lingnan, and there's a sect in Lingnan called the Witchcraft Sect. The people there are experts in witchcraft, and Li Qianxuan is one of them. His blood has been implanted with a spell. Once you drink the wine that contains the poison, you'll be poisoned, and you'll no longer have any freedom. I've been in the main altar for so many years, and I've always deliberately avoided swearing an oath of blood." "Why did you do that?" "Witchcraft," Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, then said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." As she said that, Lin Muyu checked the medicine in the Qianquan bag and heaved a sigh of relief after a few seconds. Fortunately, there were still 2 bottles of concentration powder. As long as he drank the concentration powder first, his body would be immune to all poisons, even if he was poisoned. Therefore, he secretly drank a bottle of concentration powder when no one was paying attention. He felt a little proud after drinking it. "You have witchcraft, and I have the ultimate refining skill of the god of medicine. Who's afraid of who?" After the lunch banquet, a high platform was set up outside the main altar. With Ji Yang as the leader, all the game envoys, Jin Zun and Silver Zun drank blood together. A large jar was filled with fine wine. Then Ji Yang walked forward, bit his middle finger, and dripped a drop of blood into the jar. Li Qianxuan's face was gloomy, as if he wanted to laugh but was holding back. When he cut his index finger, a drop of dark blood dripped into the jar, but the group of Jin Zun and Silver Zun Rangers did not seem to care. Perhaps their ranks were too low to understand the secret of Li Qianxuan's witchcraft. Lord Lin Yen, it's your turn. Li Qianxuan reached out and made an inviting gesture. Lin Muyu immediately stepped forward and bit his middle finger, but it did not break. After refining his skin was extraordinarily hard. So, he reached out and wiped the edge of the burning prairie sword, and the blood immediately dripped into the jar. Then, a few Jin Zun and Silver Zun dripped their blood into the jar one after another. Lin Muyu saw this and could only secretly sigh, praying that the concentration powder would be effective. Otherwise, this group of people. Damn it, these Jin Zun and Silver Zun were all unrestrained, eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. Who knew if they had contracted hepatitis B, syphilis, gonorrhea, AIDS, and so on? After drinking this wine, even if they were not poisoned by witchcraft, they would probably immediately be plagued with all kinds of diseases. Lord Lin Yen, please have a drink. A bearded venerable held a bowl of blood-stained wine in front of Lin Muyuman and said with a heroic expression. Lin Muyu looked up and found that Li Qianxuan and Ji Yang were looking at him. Forget it. This is fate. Tears fell from the corner of his eyes, and Lin Muyu raised his hand and drank the wine. A fragrant and spicy feeling flowed into his throat. He suddenly smashed the porcelain bowl and said loudly, "Good wine." Ji Yang, Li Qianxuan, and the others also laughed and drank the poisoned wine. Ji Yang drank it too. He must have drunk the antidote of witchcraft beforehand, otherwise, with his status, he would not be willing to be controlled by Li Qianxuan. A few minutes later, there was a strange feeling in his stomach, with a slight warmth. Lin Muyu knew that this was the effect of witchcraft. Could it be that the concentration powder was ineffective against this kind of witchcraft? Lin Muyu couldn't help but worry. Kid, you're poisoned. What should we do? The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from the depths of Yihai. He knew Lin Muyu's body best, so he naturally noticed it at the first moment. Help me get rid of it? Lin Muyu said with a smile through his spiritual perception. The 7 luminaries demon emperor snorted coldly. Not long after, there was a cool feeling in his body. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor devouring the witchcraft poison. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh. Damn it, sometimes it's quite useful to have a demon king living in my body. Chapter 155. After the blood oath, the group of golden venerable ones and silver venerable ones all smiled happily, as if in their hearts, it was a special honor to be able to drink the wine mixed with their own blood with Ji Yang, the great Yuchess messenger. This also showed that they did not know that Li Qianxuan was good at witchcraft. Grand Yuchess Envoy. Lin Muyu said respectfully, since we have sworn our blood oath, then, Luo Yu will be fine, right? The Grand Yuchess Envoy promised me that he would spare Luo Yu's life. Ji Yang nodded with a smile. Yes, Luo Yu can live, but he has made a huge mistake, so the House of Chivalry can no longer tolerate him. He must leave the headquarters before sunset, or he will be killed. Thank you, Grand Yuchess Envoy. Lin Yen, you are too polite. From now on, you and I are brothers. You don't have to do this. Yes, okay. Lin Muyu returned and continued to bandage Luo Yu's wounds. She also found him a set of silver venerable ranger armor and brought him some food. Luo Yu, on the other hand, had a look of gratitude on his face. After swallowing a mouthful of meat soup, he lowered his voice and said, "Being with Ji Yang is like being with a tiger. Lin Yen, you have to be careful. I mistook you for someone else. I didn't expect my personal guard to betray me. You have to be careful, he reported me." There's no reason he wouldn't report you. Lin Muyu put one hand on his shoulder and smiled. She lowered her voice and said, "Don't worry, Luo Yu. I am still of some use to Lord Ji Yang. He won't touch me for the time being." Yes, that's good. Someone, send Luo Yu to my place to rest. Lin Muyu ordered, and a few rogue warriors immediately responded. He then said in a low voice, "Luo Yu, rest and recuperate for now. I will send you down the mountain before sunset. Luo Yu nodded. Okay. At this moment, Ji Yang carried a wine jar and said with a smile, there is a banquet in the main hall. Come, Lin Yen, let's drink to our heart's content today. We will not leave until we are drunk. Most of the alcohol in the empire was rice wine, and the alcohol content was not high, so it was okay to drink a little more. Moreover, Lin Muyu's body had been tempered thousands of times, so his resistance to alcohol was already very strong. It would be a lie to say that he would not return until he was drunk. Even if he drank 7 or 8 jars of wine, he would not be drunk. There were only 3 seats in the main hall, and they were for Ji Yang, Li Qianxuan, and Lin Muyu, the 3 people who were above the level of Yi. When Lin Muyu carried a wine jar into the hall, the light inside suddenly dimmed. The door behind her was closed. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be startled, and her spirit sense began to become alert. Ji Yang walked to the front of the host's seating area and suddenly turned around. His body was enshrouded in battle energy as he smiled faintly and greeted, Sir Lin Yen. Great wandering chess envoy, what's wrong? What do you think this is? Ji Yang abruptly raised his hand, and the jar of wine in his hand shot out like a meteor. Buzz. The wine jar spun at a high speed, carrying with it a dense battle energy. Lin Muyu immediately understood that Ji Yang was testing her ability. She let out a low roar, and her battle energy surged into her arms as she also threw her wine jar out. Bang! The 2 jars of wine collided in the air and shattered into pieces. Ji Yang suddenly pierced through the curtain of wine that was formed by the surging wine. He raised his palm, and a powerful battle energy attack went straight for Lin Muyu. She couldn't admit defeat at this moment, or else she would lose her value and Ji Yang would kill her immediately. Lin Muyu had been in this world for a long time, and she had long understood the principles of deception. She instantly condensed a powerful force in her right arm, and without using her martial soul, she directly used the 7 planets' profound energies 3rd star, 3 planets calamity. In her palm, celestial images of men, women, livestock, rivers, forests, and other celestial images quickly flashed past. The power of 3 planets calamity came from all living beings, and it was also a domineering power that was difficult to resist. When Lin Muyu raised her palm and blasted out the 3rd star, a trace of shock flashed across Ji Yang's eyes. This was a power that he had never experienced before. Bang! A powerful palm blasted out, and battle energy exploded. Lin Muyu was pushed back 3 steps, while Ji Yang quickly somersaulted and landed on the ground, and took another 2 steps back. After all, Lin Muyu didn't use her martial soul, so the power of the 3rd star was greatly reduced. The 7 luminaries demon emperor, who was in the depths of his spiritual perception, even sneered and said, Kid, you actually didn't use your martial soul. Otherwise, how could my 3rd star be defeated by such a lowly opponent? Lin Muyu didn't care about the 7 luminaries demon emperor. This 7 luminaries demon emperor was an extremely talented and rare super expert. He only knew the way of cultivation, but not the way of being a person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have failed so badly and been chased to the 17th level of purgatory by hundreds of divine realm and holy region experts. In terms of cultivation, Lin Muyu needed to learn from the 7 luminaries demon emperor, but in terms of being a person, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had to learn more from Lin Muyu. Ji Yang swayed on the spot. After that palm strike, his entire right arm went numb, and it lasted for a whole 3 seconds. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Lin Muyu to be so strong. Naturally, Lin Muyu wasn't any better. The 3rd star seemed to have sucked all his energy in an instant. If he attacked again, he probably wouldn't be able to use the 3rd star again. Ji Yang waved his long sleeves and walked to his seat. He laughed and said, Lin Yen, you embezzled 114 diamond coins. Do you think you can hide this from me? I can't. Lin Muyu told the truth. Actually, I can guess that the great Yu chess envoy must know about this. Ji Yang raised his eyebrows and said, Then why do you think I didn't kill you? Lin Muyu smiled and cupped her fists. Because I can do something for the great Yu chess envoy that Luo Yu can't. Isn't that right, sir? Haha. Ji Yang threw his head back and laughed. Jiang like smart people like you. Lin Yan, I don't know about your background yet. I've sent people to investigate it, but there hasn't been any detailed results. To me, you're still a very suspicious person. Do you know that? I know. Lin Muyu smiled and took out a diamond coin. She weighed it in her hand, and a greedy look appeared on her face. She smiled and said, "But is that important? I, Lin Yan, was born in a poor family and suffered a lot from others. I endured a lot of hardships to reach the heaven realm. Now, I want to use my strength to exchange for Jin In coins and status. The Grand Yi Envoy is a smart man. Those 114 diamond coins are what I deserve for killing Jiang Fenglai. After all, Jiang Fenglai is not easy to deal with." Jiang couldn't help but continue to laugh. You're very sincere. Brother Lin Yan, the House of Chivalry is a place where you can achieve great things. As long as you follow me, I can guarantee you a lifetime of glory. You might even be made a marquis." Then Lin Yan thanks the great Yuchess envoy in advance. "You're welcome." Jiang thought for a while and suddenly looked up at Lin Muyu. He asked with a smile, "Brother Lin Yan, your attack just now was strange and powerful. What kind of martial arts was it? I've practiced martial arts all my life, but I've never seen such a strange move. What is its origin?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She knew this old man would ask that. She raised her head and said with a smile, "Actually, I don't know the specific name, but I used to herd cattle for a living when I was young. Although I pursued martial arts, I didn't succeed. Later, when I was herding cattle, I fell into a tomb. The tomb seemed to be called King Yu's tomb. Later, I found a broken martial arts manual called 18 Dragons Subduing Palms in the tomb. But most of it was rotten, and there were only 7 palms left. Later, I learned from it and made some progress. The palm I just used is called Proud Dragon Repents. Hee, great Yuchess envoy, the power of this move is not bad, right? 18 dragons subduing palms?" Ji Yang was stunned. He said, "Good name. This palm technique is powerful and indeed has the power to subdue dragons and tigers. Not bad. This palm technique, do you have it with you?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Later, after I learned 7 palms, I was so hungry that I couldn't stand it, so I used this martial arts manual to exchange for a soup dumpling." "Soup dumpling?" Ji Yang's face was full of shock. He said, Isn't this too absurd?" Lin Muyu laughed. "But that's the truth. When people are about to die from hunger, what can't they give up?" "That's true. Sit down and drink." "Yes." Fortunately, Jiang didn't ask further. Otherwise, if Lin Muyu continued to make up stories, it would be unimaginable. She might even be able to make up things like the rippling waves and the 9-in manual. Ji Yang would be considered a stupid pig if he believed it, right? Of course, Ji Yang wasn't stupid. He could tell that Lin Muyu didn't want to teach him the secret technique. This was human nature. Everyone liked to have a skill, but no one wanted someone else to learn their skill. The banquet only ended when it was almost dusk. Seeing that the sun was about to set, Lin Muyu's face turned red. She pretended to be drunk, stood up, and shook her body. She smiled and said, "Lord Jiang, I really can't drink anymore. I still have to send Luo Yu down the mountain. Otherwise, Lord Jiang will cut off his head." Jiang laughed. Lord Lin Yan drank too much. "Someone, give Lord Lin Yan 500 Jinin coins and send him back to his residence." Soon, a wandering warrior walked over with a heavy bag of money. He said respectfully, "Lord, can I send you back?" "Thank you, Lord Jiang." Lin Muyu walked out of the hall unsteadily. She had other thoughts in her mind. Jiang valued her so much. It was almost equivalent to Guan Yunchang's standard of getting gold when on horseback, getting silver when off horseback. It seemed that the headquarters really needed her strength. But what exactly did they want to do? It seemed that it was better to ask Luo Yu. After all, he was one of them. After Lin Muyu left the hall, the lights in the hall flickered. Li Qianxuan opened her sleepy, drunk eyes. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. She said, "Big brother, this guy seems to be drunk, but he's not. I still can't see through him. What is his background?" He can reach the heaven state without a martial soul. Such a genius is rare in the world. Why didn't he work for the empire? Why did he choose to join the Hall of Chivalry? Ji Yang's gaze was cold. He said flatly, "It's precisely because he doesn't have a martial soul and is a heaven state cultivator. Such a talent is very rare. I've already sent people to investigate the entire Lanyan city. There is no one like him in the imperial capital. Moreover, no high-ranking generals from the Divine Temple, the Imperial Guards, and the Divine Might Battalion have disappeared for no reason. This Lin Yan must be a wandering mercenary who wants to show off his skills in the Hall of Chivalry." Yes, Big Brother is right. Xianxia, when will your venom take effect? It will take about 7 days for the venom to grow. We just need to wait for a while. Okay. Chapter 156. As the sun set, night slowly descended on the mountain. Lin Muyu and Luo Yu rode side by side on their horses. The village in the distance shone with lights in the darkness, giving off an indescribable sense of peace and tranquility. Lin Muyu grabbed the reins and said with a smile, "Lady Luo Yu, you ambushed Princess Tang Xiaoxi once, and attempted to ambush the Imperial Army's main camp to kill Her Highness Qin Yin. You must have participated in both of the House of Chivalry's operations, right?" Luo Yu was slightly startled. "Lady Lin Yan, why are you suddenly asking about this?" "That's because I'm here for this matter." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Lady Luo Yu, you don't believe that I'm really a nameless brat, Lin Yan, right?" You are?" Luo Yu reined in her horse and asked. Lin Muyu smiled and opened her palm. The indigo-green gourd martial spirit emerged from her body and shone brightly in the night. "This is the 10th grade green gourd martial spirit, but in my hands, it is not inferior to the 1st grade god-binding chains. Guess who I am?" Luo Yu's eyes were filled with indescribable shock. Lin Muyu? You are Lin Muyu from the Holy Sanctum, right?" Lin Muyu smiled and cupped her fists. "Holy Sanctum's Gold Star Sparring Master, Imperial Guard Lin Muyu, greets Lady Luo Yu?" Luo Yu could not help but laugh out loud. "I knew it. How could a wandering mercenary have such charisma and boldness? Lady Lin Muyu? Ha, it really is you are a legend." "I know," Lin Muyu said. "There is not much time left. You better tell me, why did the House of Chivalry ambush Princess Tang Xiaoxi and Her Highness Qin Yin? Don't they know the strength behind Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin?" This, Luo Yu's expression darkened as she said, "I'm afraid that I'll have to disappoint you, Lady Lin Muyu. Ji Yang has been tight-lipped about the purpose of these 2 missions. As a chess envoy, I'm only responsible for dispatching troops. As for why, I have no idea." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu was slightly disappointed and said, Fine, I'll investigate the truth myself." "Right, Luo Yu, what plans do you have for the future? Do you have any plans for yourself?" "Not yet." Luo Yu sighed and said, "I was born in a poor family. Even though I've been training hard, I've never been able to reach Heaven Realm. I can't return to the House of Chivalry, and the army in the Imperial capital probably won't be able to accommodate a former wandering gamer like me. Perhaps the only place I can go is to join a mercenary group. There are so many mercenary groups around the Imperial capital, so there has to be one that I can go to, right?" "Hey, is that so?" Lin Muyu suddenly sneered. Luo Yu was startled. "Sir, why are you laughing so coldly?" Lin Muyu said, "Don't you know what the mercenaries in Lanyan City are like? Look at what the Tianjing mercenary group has done. How are they mercenaries? They're no different from bandits. Do you really want to go to that kind of place?" Luo Yu was dejected. "Then, so what? I'm penniless and alone. I don't even know what to eat for my next meal. A poor man's ambition is short, and a thin horse's hair is long. Why don't you set up your own group?" Lin Muyu said with a smile. "Set up my own group?" Luo Yu was startled. Lin Muyu nodded. "Go to the Imperial capital and register a mercenary group. Become a real mercenary of the Imperial capital, not a wandering mercenary that kills and pillages." This, Luo Yu was speechless and said, The Empire's mercenary system is very strict. Just registering a mercenary group requires 10,000 Jinin coins. Normal people can't afford such a large sum of money. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people willing to become wandering mercenaries. It's okay, I have money. Lin Muyu patted her Qianquan bag and said with a smile, money is definitely not a problem. The problem is, Master Luo Yu, are you willing to follow me to build an army of our own? Luo Yu was startled again. Suddenly, he flipped off his horse and knelt on one knee, cupping his fists and bowing, saying, this subordinate Luo Yu is willing to follow Master Lin Muyu. As long as you don't abandon me, Luo Yu will never leave you. Lin Muyu quickly dismounted and helped him up. She said with a smile, that's good. Let's go to the imperial capital together and register our mercenary group at night. The Empire forbids ordinary generals from owning private armies, but if I use the identity of a mercenary group to build an army, there shouldn't be a problem. I'll give you enough Jinin coins, and you'll be in charge of the recruitment. Yes, Master, Luo Yu definitely won't let you down. Luo Yu's eyes shone brightly. He had been living in a daze for the past 32 years, and only today did he see the direction of his life. Lin Muyu flipped onto her horse and said with a smile, the mercenary group that we will build will not rob the common people, nor will we accept any unjust employment such as revenge or robbery. We will only accept employment such as protection and escort. According to the military discipline of the Imperial Army, any mercenary who joins us must consider themselves as a soldier of the Empire and will not harm the common people. They must follow the 8 rules of humility, honor, sacrifice, valor, compassion, honesty, spirit, and justice. These 16 words will be the military spirit of the mercenary group that we are about to build. Luo Yu nodded excitedly, yes, Master. Lin Muyu was secretly thinking happily that the 8 rules of Western Knights were actually quite useful. Admittedly, although the Shattered Cauldron realm was far superior to the real world in terms of cultivation, it was still barbaric and primitive in terms of civilization and ideology. The 8 rules of knights in the Shattered Cauldron realm were simply a kind of advanced realm of consciousness, and it would definitely cause a storm. Late at night, they entered Lanyan City. Luo Yu changed into a new set of clothes, and Lin Muyu took off the emblem of the Hall of Chivalry's game envoy and headed to the Mercenary Union with Luo Yu. The Mercenary Union of the Imperial Capital was not far from the Imperial Army camp. Compared to the bustling Imperial Army camp, it was a little desolate, but the 4 golden words of the Mercenary Union still shone in the night sky. Creak! Pushing open the door, Lin Muyu strode in. There was no one in the hall, and on the workbench, an old man with white hair and beard was napping with his hand under his chin. Lin Muyu knocked on the table and said, Master, wake up. The old man opened his eyes and looked at Lin Muyu and Luo Yu. He rubbed his eyes and said, are you here to join the mercenary group? Currently, there are a total of 23 mercenary groups registered in the North Ridge province, and the number 1 in terms of strength and number of people is the North Ridge Mercenary Group with 10,000 people. To join the North Ridge Mercenary Group, you need to pay an introduction fee of 10 Jinin coins. Pay up. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Master, we don't want to join a mercenary group. We want to apply to establish a mercenary group. Oh! The old man was shocked. He squinted his eyes and smiled. You want to establish a mercenary group? Yes. Kid, do you have 10,000 Jinin coins? Yes. Lin Muyu quickly took out 10 diamond coins from her cosmos sack and placed them on the table. Under the oil lamp, the diamond coins glowed with a moving color. The old man's expression immediately turned serious. He immediately shouted, Guys, it's time to work. Someone is here to apply to establish a mercenary group. Hurry up, this is the 24th mercenary group we've accepted. The inner room was in chaos. Soon, 7 or 8 people wearing the Mercenary Union's uniform walked out. They lit up all the lamps and busied themselves filling in the forms. After Lin Muyu paid the 10 diamond coins, the old man took out a form and asked without raising his head, Kid, you're the leader of the mercenary group, right? What's your name? Lin Muyu. Oh, it sounds familiar. What's the name of your mercenary group? Longdan Army Camp. Longdan Army Camp? What a strange name. Why would a mercenary group use the name of an army camp? You can just write it as I say. Luo Yu smiled. He was quite satisfied with this name. Longdan Army Camp. From Lin Muyu, he could see that she was full of courage. In this barbaric and primitive world, if she was full of courage, there would be no need to talk about humility, honor, sacrifice, bravery, compassion, honesty, spirit, and justice. Not long after, the establishment of the Longdan Army Camp mercenary group was completed. The old man gave them a gold badge of the leader and 2 silver badges of the vice leader. Lin Muyu gave the 2 silver badges to Luo Yu and then put the gold badge into her Chinkuan bag. The old man raised his head and smiled. A regular mercenary group with only 2 people. Interesting. Pa, when are you going to accept the missions? Only by raising the mercenary group's level can you accept some difficult missions. Luo Yu smiled. We will be back. So let's go. The 2 of them left the mercenary union and stood under the moonlight. There was not a single person on Tongtian Street. The next step is to recruit people. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Luo Yu, do you know how to recruit people? Sir, don't worry. Luo Yu cupped her fists and smiled. This subordinate will pay attention to the taverns in the capital and rope in some people with decent strength and character to join the Longdan Army Camp. Okay, stay away from those evil people. Our Longdan Army Camp doesn't need those kinds of scum. Yes, sir. Lin Muyu took out another 100 diamond coins from her Chinkuan bag and carefully put them in another bag. She then took out another 100 gold coins and gave them to Luo Yu, saying, These 100,000 gold coins are the basic funds of our Longdan Army Camp. After you recruit people, immediately equip them with weapons, armor, and horses. I hope that everyone we recruit can fight well. Do you understand? Luo Yu nodded. Don't worry, sir. Longdan Army Camp only recruits cultivators at the 2nd level of the Earth Realm and above. But, looking up at the sky, Lin Muyu said, It's getting late. I have to hurry back to the headquarters. How will I find you in the future? Luo Yu thought for a moment and said, I will arrange for someone to stay in the mercenary union. Sir, as long as you call out the name of the Longdan Army Camp, someone will naturally receive you. Okay, then I'll be leaving. Sir, be careful on your way. Take care. Oh right, here is a bottle of Dream of the Extreme. Use it to cultivate when you have time. It might help you break through to the heaven realm. Okay, I'll be leaving. Sir, Luo Yu held a bottle of Dream of the Extreme and stood in a daze on the moonlit Tongtian Street, watching as Lin Muyu left. Chapter 157. Under the starlight, Lin Muyu galloped out of Lanyan City. The Longdan Army Camp was destined to be a mercenary camp that required a lot of money. Whether it was equipment, war horses, or recruiting personnel, they were all expensive. This expenditure could only be sustained by the business cooperation with the Imperial Chamber of Commerce. However, Lin Muyu was full of confidence. After all, he had the unique refining cauldron in this world. No one could compare to him in forging weapons. Moreover, no matter how much money he spent, Lin Muyu firmly believed in the necessity of establishing the Longdan Army Camp. In this world, the strong preyed on the weak. Without troops and horses, he didn't even have the right to speak. When he returned to the headquarters, it was almost dawn. He didn't care about anything else. He would have a good sleep first. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Everything was as usual. Ji Yang and Li Qinshuan were very polite to Lin Muyu. Almost every day, they would send precious wine and delicacies. Lin Muyu also accepted this kind of life calmly. He knew very well that it wouldn't be long before Ji Yang would have to work for him. This was inevitable. At night, a silver senior ranger respectfully said outside the door, Lord Yi, Lin Yen, the Grand Yi asked me to invite you to a banquet. Okay, I'll go right away. Yes. When he came to the main hall of the headquarters, he found that there were many people gathered here tonight. Last time, a lot of Jin Zun and Silver senior people died, so Ji Yang was promoted a lot. As a result, all the members above the silver senior level were in the main hall for a banquet. The total number of people had exceeded 20. When Lin Muyu stepped into the main hall, a group of Jin Zun and silver senior rangers cupped their fists and respectfully said, "Lord Yu Yi is here, Lin Yan." He cupped his fists and returned the greeting. He walked to the seat closest to Ji Yang and sat down. Ji Yang smiled and said, "Lin Yan, you're here. How's your cultivation going?" "No breakthrough yet." Be patient. There's no hurry." "Thank you for your concern, Grand Yi. Let's drink. We won't stop until we're drunk." Everyone toasted one another, and Lin Muyu alone received multiple toasts. What was even more exaggerated was that when Li Qianxuan clapped her hands, more than 10 maidservants began to dance gracefully in the center of the main hall. These maidservants were selected from the maidservants for their looks, figures, and dancing skills. They were also the maidservants who served the great Yugo messenger, Ji Yang. Although Ji Yang was quite old, he loved women. He had more than 30 maids by himself, which showed how extravagant and lascivious he was. Furthermore, the clothes these maids were wearing were extremely scantily clad. It could only be considered as a cover. After the dance, they dispersed and toasted the guests at each table. One of the maids in pink knelt beside Lin Muyu and poured a cup of wine for him. She smiled and said, "Sir Lin Yan, you must drink more today." As she spoke, she rubbed her full chest against Lin Muyu's arm. Lin Muyu frowned slightly. She didn't say anything. If she wanted to rub against Ji Yang, she would let her. She just needed to stabilize her spiritual sense with the spirit pulse spell. The maid giggled and snuggled into Lin Muyu's arms. This was relatively simple. Lin Muyu looked around and saw an even more ridiculous scene. Many Jin Zun and silver venerable rangers had already hugged their maids and were groping them. Their faces were flushed. They were drunk to accept Ji Yang's kindness. But Lin Muyu knew it. Would Ji Yang be so kind as to let them enjoy his concubines? Obviously not. Not far away, Li Qianxuan sat there and murmured. The heavy iron gate of the headquarters had been closed. As long as the gate was closed, this place would be isolated from the outside world. Oh no, Lin Muyu was alarmed. Was Li Qianxuan finally going to use witchcraft to control so many people in front of her? At this moment, Li Qianxuan opened her eyes and looked at a Jin Zun ranger with a burning gaze. She laughed and said, "Lord Deng Taizhun, Jin Zun, you've drunk too much. Why don't you join us for a sword dance?" That Jin Zun ranger immediately pushed away the maid beside him and walked to the center of the hall with his long sword. His eyes were filled with unconsciousness. He stood there swaying and said, "Yes, Messenger Li Qianxuan." Sush. Streams of vital qi appeared on the blade of the sword. He quickly danced with the sword, and vital qi raged around him. His cultivation level was indeed good, and his swordsmanship was not bad. However, when Lin Muyu's spiritual sense swept over him, she couldn't sense any independent spiritual sense from him. It was as if he was just a shell, completely controlled by Li Qianxuan. Witchcraft? A smile appeared on Li Qianxuan's face. She said, "My lords, please enjoy yourselves today. There's no need to hold back. One night of pleasure is enough." This was like an order. Suddenly, the group of Jin Zun rangers and silver honorable rangers became even more unscrupulous. Many of them had already put their hands into the indecent clothes of the maids in their arms and played with them wantonly. Their faces were full of bewilderment. They had all been controlled by Li Qianxuan's witchcraft, and none of them were spared. What was even more ridiculous was that a few silver honorable rangers who had weaker self-control directly pressed the maids under the table and performed a live erotic show. For a moment, drunken laughter and the moans of the maids mixed together. Lin Muyu held her cheek with her hand and leaned against the table, pretending to be drunk. She worked hard to increase the power of the spirit pulse technique so that she could be in a clear and peaceful state. Although she didn't make a move now, it was much more dangerous than any other time. Once Li Qianxuan and Ji Yang found out that she was not under the witchcraft, would they kill her on the spot? To be honest, if Ji Yang was alone, Lin Muyu could still fight. But if Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan joined forces, Lin Muyu had no chance of walking out of here alive. Moreover, there was a large group of Jinzun Rangers and Silver Honorable Rangers who were under the control of witchcraft. He had even less chance. Is Lord Lin Yen Game Ambassador drunk? The maidservant twisted her body and wrapped around Lin Muyu's body like a beautiful snake. She leaned forward and her warm breath filled Lin Muyu's ears and neck. Ji Yang squinted his eyes and looked in Lin Muyu's direction. He said, "Brother Lin Yen, are you drunk? You haven't drunk enough today. That's outrageous." Lin Muyu smiled and raised his glass. He said, "Lord Ji Yang, cheers, all right?" Ji Yang gulped down another mouthful of wine. A spicy taste rushed into her throat. Lin Muyu suddenly felt a little dizzy. She immediately swayed and knew that this was not good. This wine seemed to have been poisoned by Li Qinshuan as well. She was really unscrupulous. The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from the depths of her spiritual sense. "Lin Muyu, you idiot. You've been poisoned again." Lin Muyu secretly regretted. She suddenly raised her chi of battle and quickly burned the wine in her body. Her blood seemed to be boiling, and the witchcraft that was poisoned just now quickly dissipated and died. How could the bloodline of a true dragon allow witchcraft to wreak havoc? The 7 luminaries demon emperor wanted to help this kid regain his body, but did not expect him to resolve the crisis on his own. He was speechless. "I can't take it anymore. I've drunk too much." Lin Muyu suddenly collapsed on the table, closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. She had to pretend to be dead, or she would definitely not be able to escape today's disaster. "Lord Lin Yen, are you drunk?" Li Qinshuan walked down from his seat and came to Lin Muyu's side. He smiled and said, "Really drunk?" As he spoke, he gently pressed his palm on Lin Muyu's shoulder. The next moment, an all-pervasive spiritual power crazily rushed into Lin Muyu's ihai. It was the controller of spiritual power again. Lin Muyu leaned on the table and secretly felt a chill in her heart. She hurriedly used the spirit pulse technique and drove all her spiritual sense to the deepest part of ihai. What was left on the surface of ihai was a kind of unconscious nothingness. This was what Li Qinshuan could see. His spiritual power could not penetrate into Lin Muyu's heart at all. All he could see was a blank, endless nothingness. On the contrary, after Lin Muyu withdrew all her spiritual sense, a stream of spiritual sense floated out of her body and went straight to the 2 people she wanted to know the most. One was Li Qinshuan, and the other was Ji Yang. In her muddle-headed state, she seemed to hear a voice saying, "Hey, how can this be? This guy seems to be under a spell, but he doesn't seem to be under it. What's going on?" Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. This voice was... Could it be the voice in the deepest part of Li Qinshuan's heart? Was it mind-reading? She did not expect that when all her spiritual sense was withdrawn, there would be such an effect. Was it similar to mind-reading? However, when Lin Muyu tried to read Ji Yang's heart, she could not hear anything. Patiently, he continued to stay in this muddle-headed and illusory state. Anyway, he pretended to be drunk. A real drunkard wouldn't care about voodoo spells and would only focus on sleeping. Ji Yang and Li Qinshuan couldn't do anything to him because they didn't know if he was poisoned or not. Naturally, they couldn't do anything to him. After waiting for a long time, she finally heard a few intermittent voices. "Dear Song Court, Pale Crane. Dear Song Court, Pale Crane. Dear Song Court, Pale Crane." The strength of Ji Yang's soul was obviously much stronger than Li Qinshuan's, so he could only read so much. About 2 hours later, Lin Muyu was already snoring loudly. Li Qinshuan resentfully turned back to Ji Yang and shook her head. She said in a low voice, "I don't know what's going on either. Maybe Lin Yan's cultivation is too high, so I can't control the spell in his body." "The spell lost its effect?" Ji Yang asked. Li Qinshuan continued to shake her head. "I don't know. Forget it." Ji Yang lowered his voice and sighed. "We're going to take action tomorrow. Don't let witchcraft ruin the plan. Lin Yan is just a greedy person. We'll just let him carry out the mission tomorrow. As for the rest, we'll settle it ourselves." "Yes, big brother." That night, Lin Muyu had a hard time. She did not sleep at all, and it was even more difficult for her to pretend to be asleep. It was not until the wee hours of the morning that a group of rogue warriors finally entered the hall and sent the group of Jin Zun and Silver Venerable warriors back to their rooms to rest. She was also carried back by 2 rogue warriors so that she could sleep quietly for a while. Chapter 158. Knock, knock, knock. After some time, someone knocked on the door and said loudly, "Lord Lin Yan, there will be a special mission in the afternoon. Please get up and get ready." Lin Muyu opened her eyes and looked out of the window. It was almost noon, so she got up and washed up in a hurry. A few unaffiliated warriors had already prepared an armor and a warhorse for him. After becoming a UE envoy, the standard seemed to have increased as well. He obtained a set of red armor, which was extremely heavy when he wore it. Although the craftsmanship was exquisite, Lin Muyu still missed the gold star armor from the sanctum. After all, it was embedded with buoyancy gems, and it was extremely light to wear. After lunch, there was a sound of cannon in the village. The Grand UE envoy Ji Yang, UE envoy Li Qianxuan, and other important figures had appeared one by one. Almost all the rangers on the mountain had come out. There were more than 2,000 people, and no one was left out. Their flags fluttered in the wind, covering the sky. It was a very shocking scene. Riding to Ji Yang's side, Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Lord, what mission are we going to carry out? Why are there so many people?" Ji Yang stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Lord Lin Yan, you don't have to ask. You will know when the time comes. As long as we complete this mission, I promise that Lord Lin Yan will at least get a captaincy." Captaincy? Lin Muyu frowned and didn't continue to ask. There were less than 10,000 people in the House of Chivalry. How could she become a captaincy? The group went down the mountain. Instead of taking the official road, they took a detour through the dragon forest. Ji Yang and the others seemed to be very familiar with the mountain roads. After traveling in the mountain for the whole afternoon, Lin Muyu didn't know where they were. However, he was vaguely uneasy. The 2 words that Ji Yang had said yesterday kept circling in his mind. Deer Song Garden and White Crane. What did they mean? Had the White Crane returned to the capital? As for Deer Cry Garden, what kind of place was that? At this time, it was almost nightfall. Lin Muyu rode his horse to the back of the formation, responsible for bringing up the rear. There were a few silver exalted rangers following beside him, as if they were protecting him, but also as if they were monitoring him. Papa, in the night sky, a white figure descended rapidly, accompanied by the sound of flapping wings. Lin Muyu raised her head, and the white bird had already landed on her shoulder. It was Chu Yao's messenger bird, Little White. Lin Muyu looked left and right. A few silver elder rangers were chatting and did not seem to notice his movements. So he pulled down the letter tube on the leg of the messenger bird and took out a roll of paper. A line of Chu Yao's words was clearly written on it. "Where did you go? I haven't been in the imperial capital for a long time. Today, brother went with the emperor to Deer Garden Palace to hunt. I miss you so much. When you see the letter, reply." It was Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's heart warmed, but when her gaze fell on the words, Deer Garden Palace, her heart suddenly trembled. Deer Garden, was there a palace there? If that was the case, then Ji Yang's target was Deer Garden Palace. To assassinate the emperor. In an instant, Lin Muyu's heart was chilled. She finally understood why Ji Yang was so wary and what he meant by the White Crane. It must be that the White Crane would also participate in the assassination. Not good. If Chu Chu was not by the emperor's side, she was afraid that she would really be in danger. More importantly, Qin Yin would also go to Deer Garden Palace to hunt with Qin Jin. Then even she would be in danger. Even if Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, and the others accompanied her to protect her, they were in the light while the House of Chivalry was in the dark. If they were attacked, perhaps Qin Yin could rely on her own strength to protect herself, but it was hard to say for Qin Jin. At the thought of this, Lin Muyu's heart was burning. She could not become an accomplice. She had to leave this place, but how could she leave? After thinking about it, she decided to go to the bathroom. This was a tried and tested trick. "I'm going to pee for a while, I'll be right back." He suddenly turned his horse around and said. A silver venerable level wanderer said, Then shall I go with you, messenger you? No need, I can't pee with someone watching me. Then, all right, I'll wait here for Lord Messenger you. No need, just follow the team. There are spiritual beasts roaming around here. No one can save you if they eat you. All right, he rode into the depths of the forest and immediately pulled out the burning prairie sword. With the ostentatious sword light, he wrote a reply to Chu Yao. Sister Chu Yao, the House of Chivalry will assassinate His Majesty tonight in Deer Garden. Please think of a way to inform Qin Lei and Feng Jixing immediately. You stay. Whoosh! Little White spread its wings and flew straight in the direction of Lanyan City, just in time to point out the direction for Lin Muyu. He immediately urged his horse to gallop in that direction. The warhorse kept snorting. The continuous galloping for a few days had exhausted a lot of its physical strength, but it was urgent now, so Lin Muyu kept urging the horse to move forward. For hours later, the warhorse finally fell to the ground with a whine, foaming at the mouth and unable to run anymore. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and carried the burning prairie sword to activate the falling star steps. He galloped forward as if he was stepping on the stars. His speed was not much slower than the warhorse, but the consumption of his battle energy increased rapidly. Half an hour later, the outline of Lanyan City appeared in front of him after climbing over a hill. However, Lin Muyu did not have time to enter the imperial capital to ask for reinforcements. He went straight to the Eagle Nest camp, where he still had 110 elite soldiers at his disposal. He could not care so much, he just had to send as many people as he could. On the Eagle Nest Mountain, the lights flickered, and many soldiers were gathering and drinking in the camp. When Lin Muyu appeared in a chess envoy's armor, a group of royal guards raised their longbows and shouted in a low voice, "Who are you? How dare you trespass on the Eagle Nest Mountain?" Lin Muyu slowly lifted the cloak that covered his head, revealing a determined face, and said, "I am Lin Muyu of the Royal Guards, let me in." "So it's Lord Lin Muyu, please wait a moment." The gate slowly opened, and when Lin Muyu stepped into the camp, Wei Chou and a group of royal guards had already come forward to welcome him, and said with a smile, "Lord, you're finally back." Lin Muyu was anxious, and said, "Prepare a horse for me and a set of royal guards' armor for me. Wei Chou, gather our troops and prepare to set off immediately." "Yes, Lord." Wei Chou was very loyal, and did not even ask any questions, and immediately went to carry out the task. At this moment, the commander of the Eagle Nest camp, Meng Fong, walked out of the central tent, and said in a low voice, "Lin Muyu, without orders from your superiors, you are not allowed to mobilize the troops of the Eagle Nest camp." Lin Muyu's expression turned cold, and she said, "Right now, a large group of people are heading to Deer Nest Garden to assassinate the emperor. If we set off now, we might still be able to make it in time." Meng Fong was stunned. What do you mean?" Lin Muyu raised her fist and said, "Those who are willing to come with me to rescue the emperor, come with me." Among the group of centurions, only Xiahou Sang held a long sword, and said with a smile, "Lord Lin Muyu, I, Xiahou Sang, will go with you." All right. After changing into the white robes of the royal guards, there seemed to be about 300 people gathered. Lin Muyu mounted the horse and said in a low voice, "Wei Chou, lead the way to Deer Nest Garden." "Yes, Lord." The sound of hooves broke the silence of the night. More than 300 royal guards quickly descended the mountain and headed straight for Deer Nest Garden in the north of the city. Deer Nest Garden, a temporary imperial residence located at the edge of the dragon-seeking forest. It was also the usual hunting ground of the Emperor, Qin Jin. Today, he had once again arrived at Deer Nest Garden with Qin Yin, accompanied by more than 10 officials. The main hall of the temporary imperial residence was brightly lit, and the emperor and his officials were drinking merrily, as though they would stay up all night long. Outside the main hall, Feng Jixing was dressed in a white robe, and his brows were tightly furrowed. His hand was on the handle of his wind cutter, and he said to Luo Lai, "How's the defense going at night?" Luo Lai cupped his fists and said, "Don't worry, Lord. We've brought 5,000 imperial guards, and 4,000 of them are stationed in the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west. There are 12 camps, and not even a bird will be able to fly in. Moreover, Commander Qin Lei is leading 50 dragon guards to protect His Majesty and Her Highness. Don't worry, nothing will happen. That's good. Feng Jixing felt a little uneasy and said, I keep feeling that something is not right. Is Lord Chu Chu not back yet? Luo Lai smiled slightly. The herbs at the bottom of the Black Mountain have completely mesmerized Lord Chu Chu. I feel that if we don't harvest all the herbs there, I'm afraid that Lord Chu Chu will not return. Moreover, Deer Nest Garden is so heavily guarded that it doesn't matter if Lord Chu Chu returns or not. Feng Jixing muttered, That's good too. Let our brothers keep their spirits up. We cannot slack off at all tonight. Yes, Lord. In the cold night of the dragon-seeking forest, a thunderous sound came from underground. With a bang, a huge and ferocious snake head rushed out of the ground. The scales on the snake's head were like blades, spiraling like knives. This was a type of earth-drilling dragon snake. There were 12 gold patterns and 3 silver patterns on its head. It was actually an earth-drilling dragon snake with a lifespan of 12,300 years. A few scales on its head had already peeled off, revealing the golden scales underneath. This dragon snake was undergoing a dragon transformation. Perhaps in another few hundred years, it would transform into a real dragon. At the neck of the dragon snake, an entire scale had flipped open and a piece protruded out. It was an old expert who had pierced his feet into the flesh of the dragon snake. His hair and beard were all white, and his face had a hint of arrogance. He lightly tapped the neck of the dragon snake with his long staff and said, Little treasure, continue passing through. Whether we can kill that incompetent and incapable ruler this time depends on you. Hiss hiss. The dragon snake raised its head and let out a long hiss, with some anger and unwillingness. Under the moonlight, the old man's long hair fluttered in the wind. It was the pale crane. Whoosh! The dragon snake raised its head and once again burrowed into the ground. The scales around its skull spun like blades, turning the rocks and soil underground into dust. The pale crane lowered its head. It was as if its entire body was attached to the scales on the dragon snake's body, and it was not affected by the rocks. It held its breath and followed the dragon snake underground. At night, the white robes of the White Robe Imperial Forest fluttered in the wind. Qin Lei held a gourd in his hand. He opened it and drank a mouthful of wine. After warming his body, he said, Strengthen the defenses. Beside him, Chu Huaying held his long sword and suddenly pricked up his ears in alarm. He said, Commander, did you hear something? What sound? Qin Lei was stunned. It seems like a sound coming from underground. Chu Huaying's gaze turned cold. He confirmed the source of the sound and said, It is indeed coming from underground. Something is coming, be careful. Chapter 159. Suddenly, the sound stopped, as if it had never been heard. Chu Huaying opened his eyes wide and stayed alert for nearly 5 minutes. But there was nothing. Qin Lei could not help but laugh. He patted Chu Huaying's shoulder and said, Don't be so nervous, there was no sound at all. Chu Huaying frowned slightly. Commander, my spiritual sense will never be wrong. Then, increase the vigilance. The cold moonlight sprinkled on the ground like frost. In the open space to the east of Deer Garden, bonfires swayed in the cold wind. This was the camp of the Imperial Guards, and there were about 1,000 Imperial Guards stationed there. The sound of horse hooves passed by, and 100 patrolling cavalry whizzed past the perimeter of the camp. Clatter. Amidst the clatter of the iron chains on his armor, Bailey stood up. The golden insignia on his collar was the military rank of the Imperial Chiliarch. He frowned as he looked into the distance and said, Why do I feel that the tranquility tonight is a little unusual? There's not even a single spirit beast that came to cause trouble. This is too unusual. On the side, a centurion who was roasting wild rabbit meat grinned and said, Sir, you must be too worried about the Emperor's safety this time. Don't worry, the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards have mobilized more than 6,000 people, and they are all around the Imperial City. Which bastard would have the guts to make a move on us? Bailey nodded. Yes, although you are right, tell our brothers to keep their spirits up. Don't sleep too soundly tonight. Be ready for battle at any time. Yes. At this time, on the mountain range to the east of the camp, the light of torches appeared, but quickly extinguished. It was the people of the House of Chivalry. More than 2,000 people appeared together on a hill that was about 100 meters high, using the night and the forest to hide their figures. Jiang pulled on the reins and urged the horse forward slowly. He said in a low voice, "We are about to enter the Forbidden Army's defensive perimeter. All Silver Exalted Rangers, get ready to move out. We will eliminate their 100-strong cavalry in half an hour. We cannot let them make any noise before we enter the Forbidden Army's camp. By the way, where is Lin Yan?" One of the supremacies cupped his fists and said, "Great envoy Yu." Lin Yan said that he needed to pee, so he went to relieve himself. However, he didn't follow us. We haven't heard from him for nearly 2 hours. He disappeared? Ji Yang's expression turned cold as he said, "Bastard, you actually disappeared in such a situation." Li Qianxuan sneered. "I knew that Lin Yan isn't on our side. He'll only be a scourge if we keep him in the headquarters. Big brother, why don't we call off today's operation?" "No." Ji Yang suddenly waved his hand and said calmly, "We can't let go of such a rare opportunity. There won't be a next time. Besides, the Ashen Crane is here too. With his treasure, even if the fire cauldron Chu Chu is in the camp, we will still force our way into Deer Cry Garden and bring out the head of the incapable ruler. Everyone, be alert and prepare to attack." "Yes." In the darkness of the night, the Forbidden Army's patrols were divided into 4 teams. Each team had 100 men. At this moment, 100 heavy cavalry entered the forest to patrol. They held torches in their hands and looked around cautiously. However, perhaps because the sound of the horses' hooves was too loud, they actually didn't notice the strange movements in the forest. An ice-cold arrow shot out from the darkness, piercing through the neck of a centurion with a poochie sound. Immediately afterwards, arrows rained down on him. "Careful, there's an ambush. Sound the horn immediately," someone shouted. An Imperial Army sergeant quickly took off the horn on his waist. Just as he brought it to his mouth, he saw a black shadow coming through the air, with a milky white combat aura. Bam! With a muffled sound, the Imperial Army sergeant's head was smashed. Then, martial artists with extraordinary cultivation rushed out from the forest. They were Jin Zun, Silver Elder, and the others from the House of Chivalry. Most of the Imperial Army soldiers were ordinary people who hadn't even entered the human realm. How could they be a match for them? In the blink of an eye, they were all killed. Ji Yang's palms were already stained with blood. With a vicious look on his face, he looked into the distance and said, "Why hasn't the signal been sent out yet? What is the Ashen Crane doing?" Li Qianxuan said softly, "Wait a little longer. There will be." In the inner courtyard of Deer Cry Garden, Qin Lei, Chu Huayin, and the others were still guarding the outside of the main hall with their hands on the hilt of their swords. Suddenly, the rumbling sound from underground was heard again. Chu Huayin immediately pricked up his ears and shouted, "It's coming! Be careful underground!" The group of dragon guards became solemn. Bam! With a loud sound, mud and rocks burst out from the ground. A ferocious head appeared in the inner courtyard. The moment the burrowing dragon snake emerged from the ground, it bit a dragon guard in its mouth. The dragon guard's face turned pale. He hurriedly circulated his vital qi to defend himself. He shouted in a low voice, and a blood-red scythe martial soul condensed in front of his chest. He shouted, "Break!" Buzz! The martial soul hummed, and the scythe spun rapidly to cut the burrowing dragon snake's huge mouth. However, it couldn't cut through the scales that were as tough as iron. The burrowing dragon snake growled and closed its jaws. With a poochie sound, the poor dragon guard was bitten into 2. Fresh blood flowed everywhere. At the same time, the Ashen Crane on the burrowing dragon snake's back leaped up. The pressure of its domain quickly descended upon them. It shouted, "Do you think you can stop me?" The metal staff descended from the sky and landed on Chu Huayin's head. Chu Huayin suddenly raised his head, but he couldn't move under the pressure of the sanctuary. He couldn't help but grit his teeth. Starlight flashed around his body, and his battle energy exploded. Golden cicada shedding. Bam! The ashen crane's staff landed, but it only hit Chu Huayin's afterimage. Instead, he felt a chill behind him. With a chi sound, Chu Huayin had appeared behind him. The star-plucking finger landed heavily on the ashen crane's battle energy armor. Although it couldn't penetrate it, it made the ashen crane's aura a little chaotic. Qin Lei and the others broke free from the suppression of the domain pressure. The dragon guards quickly drew their swords and surrounded the ashen crane and the burrowing dragon snake. Roar, roar, roar. The burrowing dragon snake's body was as hard as iron. Furthermore, it was a 1,300-year-old burrowing dragon snake. As it roared, its body swept across the area, turning the buildings into dust. It whipped its tail, and 2 dragon guards were whipped away as if they were flies. They were seriously injured in an instant. The dragon guard's counterattack was very weak. The arrows bounced off the burrowing dragon snake's scales, but they didn't cause any substantial damage. Violent lightning formation. Countless lightning bolts rained down around Qin Lei, and at the same time, 6 god-binding chains wrapped around his body. He raised the thunder splitter blade and dashed towards Zhang Baihe. With a low roar, he slashed out 3 times. The reason why the god-binding chains was known as the number 1 martial soul was because of its powerful attack power. These 3 slashes all landed on Zhang Baihe's iron staff, and unexpectedly, the sacred domain expert's blood and chi became chaotic, and he was forced to take a few steps back. Damn it! Qin Lei's eyes were cold. He shouted, "Send a signal to ask for help. Let the royal guards come in with acid water. The burrowing dragon snake's scales are too powerful. We must use acid water to corrode them in order to penetrate them." As soon as he finished speaking, a xiao sound was heard. A red ray of light shot into the sky from the hands of a dragon guard. That was the signal of the royal guards. At the same time, the ashen crane raised his staff and a milky white battle energy shot into the sky. With a wang sound, a white ray of light shot into the sky. It seemed that he was also sending a signal to the outside. Not good, Chu Huayin held his sword and said, "Commander, they should have other surprise teams. What should we do?" "Don't worry. There's still Feng Jixing. Let's kill that old thing ashen crane first. We can't let him step into the main hall." "Yes." At this moment, the signals from both sides appeared one after another. It seemed that there was some kind of tacit understanding. The royal guards of the East Barracks were a little shocked. Chili Arch Bailey immediately stood up and mounted his horse with his sword. He said, "Something happened in the palace. First and Second Barracks, get on your horses and follow me to reinforce them. The rest of you stay here and guard the east gate of Deer Cry Garden." Everyone got on their horses. However, not long after Bailey left, the sound of horse hooves could be heard in the darkness. A group of chivalrous house wanderers rushed over like a tornado. They were led by Ji Yang, who had the strength of a heavenly king, and Li Qianxuan, who had the strength of a heavenly venerable. There were also many Jin Zun, silver venerable, and bronze venerable wanderers. How could the few hundred royal guards resist them? Shield wall, bows and arrows. Giant shields formed an impenetrable wall, and spears poked out from the gaps of the shield wall. The imperial guards who stayed behind did not suffer any counterattacks. They pushed the line forward, and the spears pierced through the rogue swordsmen and venerables, killing them one by one. For a moment, the people of the House of Chivalry could not take it. This was the sharpness of an army's battle. Bows and arrows. Nearly 100 royal guards shot their arrows. The sharp arrows quickly fell into the crowd of people from the House of Chivalry and killed dozens of people. At this moment, a dignified voice sounded, "Move aside, let me do it." Ji Yang made his move. He leaped from the back of his horse and raised his right palm in midair. Blood-colored battle aura swirled around him. He roared, "What bullsh *T royal guards of the Empire?" Boom. A giant blood-red palm smashed into the shield formation, instantly scattering the shields like a gale sweeping away fallen leaves. Ji Yang was the first to charge into the crowd of imperial guards. His palms danced wildly, each strike carrying a wave of battle chi. His attacks were ruthless, killing dozens of imperial guards in the blink of an eye. The imperial guards, on the other hand, couldn't hurt him. After all, the battle armor around him was too thick, and it was difficult for those without martial souls to penetrate it. In less than 5 minutes, the 600 imperial guards were completely crushed. More than half of them were dead, but the remaining were still holding onto their weapons and fighting bitterly. It was only because of the iron and blood rule that Feng Jixing gave them. The imperial guards would rather die than surrender. Jiang did not stay for long. He led his men and quickly broke through the imperial army's encampment and rode straight to Deer Cry Park. In the darkness of the night, nearly 2,000 members of the House of Chivalry approached the core of the empire's soul, Emperor Qin Jin. Chapter 160. Buzz. The impact of the fierce battle between the sanctuary and the heaven state created waves of tremors that came from underground. For a moment, the officials gathered in the main hall could no longer sit still. One by one, they stood up to watch the battle in the inner courtyard. There, the roars of wild beasts and the roars of the royal guards could be heard, as well as the screams of people on the verge of death. Minister Luo Xing's face was a little shocked. "Your Majesty, the attacker is Tsang Baihe, an important guest of the Divine Marquis residence." Qin Jin frowned. The Divine Marquis residence again. The State General Ling Nantian cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, that old man Tsang Baihe is really shameless. He has received so many favors from the emperors in the past, and now he has come to assassinate Your Majesty. I will go chop off his head and present it to Your Majesty." Qin Jin's heart sank. He knew that although Ling Nantian was good at leading troops, his own combat ability was far from Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others. He shook his head. "No. General Ling is the state general. How can you fight with such a despicable person? Guards, where is Feng Jixing?" Outside the main hall, Feng Jixing obeyed and entered. He cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, I am here." "What's the situation outside?" Qin Jin frowned. Feng Jixing said briefly, "Lord Qin Lei is leading the dragon guards to besiege Tsang Baihe, but Tsang Baihe has reared a dragon snake for more than 10,000 years, so the outcome is uncertain. In my opinion, why not let me cover Your Majesty's retreat? The location of the main hall is too obvious. If Tsang Baihe breaks through the protection of the royal guards, the safety of Your Majesty and the other officials will be in danger." Qin Jin nodded. "Let's go to the West Court." "Yes." Feng Jixing unsheathed his wind cutter and shouted, "Imperial Guards camp, follow me to protect His Majesty and the ministers to the West Court." At the east gate of Deer Song Park, about 300 Imperial Guards were guarding. Fire broke out in all directions. They did not know where to go and could only stay where they were. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the cold night, the sharp arrows came along with the wind. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Imperial Guards guarding the gate were killed. One of the generals hurriedly shouted, "Defend with shield walls and use kerosene to block the way." The Imperial Guards on the city wall threw down the oil barrels one after another. Bang! 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 The barrels exploded and the black beach oil splattered all over the ground. Following that, torches were thrown down. In the blink of an eye, the only path to the east gate of Deer Cry Garden had turned into a sea of fire. "Serve me with your arrows." Arrows rained down from the city walls, injuring several bronze elder rangers who were charging at the front. Some of them were even shot to death. Ji Yang's face turned cold. He jumped off the horse and shouted, "Li Qianshuan, water separation technique." "Yes, big brother." Li Qianshuan leaped forward and raised his palms. Immediately, streams of battle aura rapidly absorbed the water elements in the air. He abruptly pushed his palms forward and then slowly separated them. Immediately, the streams of water elements pushed the flames to the sides as if they had a mind of their own. This kind of fire-extinguishing technique was truly amazing. However, Li Qianshuan, who was using the water separation technique, was not in a good condition either. His face was covered in sweat, and in the blink of an eye, his battle energy was almost overdrawn. Charge in! Ji Yang took the opportunity to mount his horse and charge forward with everyone. His battle armor blocked the dense rain of arrows, and he punched out with his fist, directly reducing the east gate of Deer Song Park to dust. This gate was made of wood, so it had no defensive power at all. Furthermore, Deer Song Park was originally a palace for the emperor to patrol. It was originally not designed to be used for defense, so naturally, it could not withstand a single blow. A group of rangers quickly rode their horses and followed Ji Yang into the garden. The 600 imperial guards could not stop them even if they wanted to. After all, the other party had a level 74 heavenly king. Shoo! There was a sharp caw in the air, and a black-feathered crow landed on Li Qianxuan's shoulder. His eyes shone with a demonic light, and he suddenly said, "Big brother, Qin Jin has gone to the west court. We'll pass through the imperial garden from here and catch them off guard." But the moonlight was like water. The snow a few miles away from Deer Cry Park had not completely melted yet. Amidst the clattering of hooves, the iron hooves left black spots on the snow. The curved hooves left marks on the snow, like the waning moon treading on the snow. In the distance, flames shot into the sky, and they could already hear the battle cries coming from Deer Song Park. Wei Chou frowned and said, "Are we already too late?" "It's not too late as long as we are here." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and pulled out the burning prairie sword. She said, "The south gate is intact. Let's kill our way through the broken north gate. Full speed ahead." Yes. Over 300 imperial guards of the Eagle Nest camp rushed over and passed through the destroyed east gate. Lin Muyu looked at the broken gate and couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Who could have such a strong fist force? It was probably Ji Yang, wasn't it? Or the pale crane. In the west garden of Deer Song Park, there used to be a herd of tamed longhorn deer. At the moment, there was a chaotic battle outside. Nearly 100 longhorn deer were stamping their hooves anxiously in the pen. Under the protection of a group of civil and military officials, Qin Jin sat in a side hall of Deer Cry Garden. He looked at the fire outside from afar and sighed. He blamed himself endlessly in his heart, yet he asked, "Where is Her Highness Yin?" "Her Highness Yin is bathing in the hot spring in the south garden." A servant said, "Send someone to find Her Highness Yin." "No." Qin Jin raised his arm and said, "Feng Jixing, you will personally lead 200 elite imperial guards to the south garden to protect Her Highness Yin. You must ensure Xiao Yin's safety." Feng Jixing was stunned. "But Your Majesty, the west garden is already short of soldiers, and there is a group of strong soldiers from the House of Chivalry outside. I am worried that here." "Don't say any more. Go and protect Her Highness Yin." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and led the crowd away with his windcutter. Before he left, he said, "Once the traders from the House of Chivalry come in, immediately open the pen and let the longhorn deer rush out. Maybe they can delay them for a while. I will come back as soon as I find Her Highness Yin." Luo Lai cupped his fists and nodded. Less than 5 minutes after Feng Jixing left, the wall of the west garden was suddenly blasted open with a boom. Gravel flew everywhere, and the torches outside the wall were abnormally dense. At least 1,000 rangers were outside the wall, eyeing them covetously. Ji Yang was surrounded by his combat energy. He stepped on the broken rocks and entered the west garden with a faint smile on his face. The time to kill the incapable ruler has come. Rangers, charge. The Imperial Army's 1,000-man commander Luo Lai immediately led a group of Imperial Army soldiers to welcome them. At the same time, he opened the beast pen. Immediately, a herd of longhorn deers rushed out while howling, catching the rangers off guard. Many of them were stabbed by the longhorn deer's sharp horns, and some were even trampled to death. Ji Yang suddenly rushed forward with his combat energy in his palm. With a sudden blow, he blasted an Imperial guard into a pile of minced meat. His strength was so tyrannical that it left people speechless. A group of Jin Zun and Silver Venerable Rangers rushed in with their swords. The scene once again turned into a chaotic battle. "Protect Her Majesty! Protect Her Majesty! The civil and military officials shouted loudly. But who could protect Qin Jin at this time? Ji Yang, Li Qianxuan, and the other Heaven Realm experts launched their attacks, and the situation became completely one-sided. The 200 Imperial Guards led by Luo Lai were killed one after another, and in the blink of an eye, there were only 50 people left, and even Luo Lai himself was injured. One of his arms was fractured by Ji Yang, and his arm was hanging by his side, and he could not even hold his long sword steadily. Gritting his teeth, Luo Lai switched to his left hand to hold his sword. But he was not familiar with it, and he was sent flying by Ji Yang with a palm strike. General Luo Lai. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and shouted, "Stop fighting. You should not die like this. If the people from the House of Chivalry really want to kill me, then kill them. After I die, Qin Yin will be the ruler, and the empire will not be destroyed." Ji Yang could not help but laugh. "Qin Jin, do you think your daughter can still live? Pa. Rangers, kill them all. Leave no one alive. I'm going to change the empire's territory today." Just at this moment, the wall at the side suddenly collapsed with a bang, creating a huge gap. A group of people wearing the armor of the Imperial Guard appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The person at the front was impressively a young general holding a flaming longsword. His white robes fluttered in the wind. Suddenly, he opened his palm and let go of the long sword. A dense flame shrouded his palm and the long sword began to spin rapidly. Using fire to control the sword, Lin Muyu urged her horse forward with the long sword in her hand, and her target was Ji Yang. "Lin Yan, it's you." Ji Yang recognized Lin Muyu at a glance. He could not help but shout angrily, "You shameless villain, so you are also a lackey of the emperor. Say what you want." Lin Muyu charged at Ji Yang with great momentum. She leaped from her horse and controlled the burning prairie sword with her palms, striking at Ji Yang with a mighty strike. Ji Yang had to fight Lin Muyu with all his strength. He put his palms together in front of his chest, and his vigorous battle chi condensed into a huge shield. He shouted in a low voice, "Ascending Void Shield." Boom! The dragon flame spiral strike collided with the ascending void shield, and the battle chi instantly erupted. The impact made the group of civil and military officials almost unable to open their eyes. The rapidly spiraling True Dragon origin fire tore through the ascending void shield's battle chi defense bit by bit. In fact, the ascending void shield was an enhanced version of battle armor. The moment the ascending void shield was torn apart, the power of the spiral strike was also exhausted. Ding! With a sword cry, the burning prairie sword was shaken, and its power was exhausted. However, Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the long sword in the air. She shouted, "Fire Dragon, come out." Battle chi poured into the blade, and she directly launched a sword soul attack. The Fire Dragon roared and rushed out through the blade, directly hitting Ji Yang's chest. Ji Yang had already consumed more than 50% of his battle chi along the way. Just now, he used the ascending void shield to block Lin Muyu's spiral strike, and at least 20% of his strength was consumed. Now, how could he block the sword's soul attack of the burning prairie sword? There was a burning pain in his chest. What was worse, in Ji Yang's eyes, he clearly saw Lin Muyu rushing over like a ghost, and her fist was surrounded by the familiar all-living stars. The arrogant dragon regrets. Ji Yang instantly felt regret in his heart. Moreover, this time, Lin Muyu had already summoned the green gourd martial soul, and her strength was greatly increased. It was the third glory with 100% strength. "Protect the great wandering chess envoy." Li Qianxuan shouted, and hurriedly stood in front of Ji Yang, her palms forming a shield. Bang! With a loud sound, Li Qianxuan and Lin Muyu were both celestial venerables, but they were not as strong as the Seven Glory Dark Force. Li Qianxuan was directly hit by the palm, and blood spurted out of his mouth. To make matters worse, the power of the Third Glory went through Li Qianxuan's chest and directly hit Ji Yang's abdomen. After a few steps back, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of Ji Yang's mouth. "Charge over and kill Qin Jin, or else, no one will leave." Flames of madness burned in Ji Yang's eyes. Lin Muyu's aura was also surging. After using the third glory, her battle chi seemed to have been drained, and she needed a few seconds to recover. Standing in the distance, she said calmly, "Royal guards, protect His Majesty and the ministers." Yes. Wei Chou and the others all pulled out their swords, activated their martial souls, and charged at the group of rangers. Chapter 161. The Eagle Guards. It's the Eagle Guards. The officials cheered. Lin Muyu's arrival gave them hope of survival. Your Majesty. Lin Muyu did not participate in the battle. Instead, she turned around and bowed to Qin Jin. I came late. I should have sensed it earlier, but I could not see through Ji Yang and Li Qianshuan's thoughts. It is my fault that Deer Garden was attacked. Qin Jin shook his head with a smile. No, you came at the right time. You have done a good job. Lin Muyu nodded and stood by Qin Jin's side to protect him. He did not make a move. When he approached Deer Cry Park, he had already used his spirit pulse technique to sense the aura fluctuations of the surrounding experts. Within the vicinity of Deer Cry Park, the White Crane and the 12,300-year-old Dragon Serpent's aura were the strongest, followed by Ji Yang. Ji Yang's aura was getting weaker and weaker as the battle wore on, so Lin Muyu had chosen to fight Ji Yang the moment he entered Deer Cry Park. He had even used his strongest killing moves, the Dragon Flame Spiral Break and the Third Star, to cripple Ji Yang's battle strength in one round. The next few minutes were his time to recover. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the rest of the Eagle Guards had always been the Imperial Guards outside the capital. They were only responsible for patrolling and gathering information. They did not usually have the chance to protect the Emperor. That was why the opportunity before them was so precious. They fought the Rangers with all their might. 300 of them fought to a draw against more than 1,000 Rangers. Not long after, more than 1,000 Imperial Guards guarding the west gate of Deer Cry Garden charged over. With a pincer attack from both sides, the House of Chivalry was instantly defeated. Silver Venerable, Bronze Venerable, and Iron Venerable Wanderers died under the arrows. Even 2 Golden Venerable Wanderers were killed by Wei Qiu and Xiahou Sang. Ji Yang and Li Qianshuan fled, and the Imperial Guards did not pursue them. Instead, they let the Imperial Guards pursue them. Lin Muyu. Qin Jin suddenly raised an eyebrow and said, Xiao Yin is still in the southern court. I wonder how she's doing right now. Feng Jixing is bringing people over right now. You should hurry over as well. Perhaps you'll be able to help Feng Jixing. Lin Muyu stared blankly for a moment, but didn't say anything. She carried her sword and used the falling star steps to rush to the west court. Rumble! A violent rumbling sound came from underground. Feng Jixing looked at the movement under his feet and frowned. He said, The Dragon Serpent has burrowed back into the ground. Where are Her Highness Yin's people? His Highness, you can stay in the side hall's hot spring. We'll stand guard here, said one of the Imperial Army's Kiliarchs. Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes and said, I wonder how Qin Lei, Chu Huaying and the rest are doing in their battle against Song Baihe. Sigh, they came so suddenly this time that we were simply caught off guard, the Chiliarch smiled. Lord Commander, there's no need to blame yourself. We've all done our best. At this moment, there was a sudden bang. The ground trembled, and a huge black figure rushed out. It was the Dragon Serpent. It seemed to have received an order from Song Baihe. The Dragon Serpent came alone to look for Qin Yin. The moment its huge head emerged from the ground, it opened its mouth and bit 2 Imperial Army cavalrymen to death. Its head shook violently and tore them, along with their horses, into minced meat. Clang! Feng Jixing unsheathed his sword and shouted, Bastard, attack with me and kill him! The Dragon Serpent seemed to be mocking them. It suddenly raised its head, and a ball of fire appeared on its neck. It was about to attack with a dragon's breath. Feng Jixing was stunned and shouted, Be careful to dodge. His martial soul was the purple electric flame wolf, which was focused on attacking. He didn't have a defensive skill like Lin Muyu's green gourd. He held his sword with both hands and suddenly spun it like the wind. With the support of his battle energy, it actually formed a huge light shield. He shouted, "Blade dance!" What? Scorching flames spewed out and engulfed Feng Jixing's figure. At the same time, more than 10 Imperial army soldiers around him were burned to ashes. The flames burned along the pavilion, and in the blink of an eye, the side hall of the West Court was on fire. The moment the flames dissipated, Feng Jixing rushed out of the smoke. His face was full of traces of smoke, and his eyes were filled with hatred. The Windcutter sword turned into a cold light and went straight for the dragon serpent's neck. The first style of the wind blade, Desert Gale. The sword slashed on the scales and left a deep mark, but it didn't hurt the dragon serpent. On the contrary, the dragon serpent's head swayed rapidly, slamming heavily onto Feng Jixing's shoulder, sending him flying back along with his saber. A group of Imperial guards hurriedly went forward, but they were caught off guard by the dragon serpent's tail swiftly whipping past them. The group of Imperial guards were still standing there in a daze, but their bodies were already splattered with blood. Their upper bodies were all snapped and fell down, actually becoming two halves. The cruelty of the massacre was unbearable. The maidservants in the side hall were dumbfounded, and Feng Jixing still held his sword and stood together with the dragon serpent. Rustle, rustle. Amidst the rustling sounds, Qin Yin, who had just finished bathing, had already changed into a princess's armor. Her long hair was still wet, and she raised her hand to pick up the long sword beside her. She said to the maidservants, "You guys wait here. I'll go help Commander Feng Jixing." "No!" One of the maidservants hurriedly knelt on the ground and said, "Your Highness is precious. How can you take such a risk?" This servant heard that the dragon serpent outside is a 10,000-year-old spirit beast. Even General Feng Jixing isn't its match. If anything happens to your Highness, we won't be able to bear the consequences of His Majesty's wrath. I hope that your Highness will reconsider. Weng, God-binding chains appeared around Qin Yin like guardian spirits, and the maidservants with no cultivation dared to say a word. The God-binding chains were the martial souls of kings, and they contained the majesty of an emperor. It wasn't something that mortals could look directly at. But the moment Qin Yin rushed out of the side hall with her sword, she saw the dragon serpent's tail swaying in the air and drilling into the ground together with its body. Battle Qi swirled around the long sword in Feng Jixing's hand as he said angrily, "You killed so many of my men, and you still want to leave?" With a leap, the courageous Imperial Army commander actually followed the dragon serpent into the cave. How can this be? The beautiful princess instantly felt guilty. She didn't have the courage to jump into the dark cave. She had been afraid of the dark since she was a child, and she didn't even blow out the light when she slept at night. A series of rumbling sounds came from underground, and the dragon serpent's tunnel caused the ground to tremble as if there was an earthquake. A few minutes later, there was a sudden bang, and the dragon serpent appeared again. It was impressively in the side hall's hot spring pool. As the water splashed, the dragon serpent let out a roar and swallowed a maidservant. It chewed in big mouthfuls, and fresh blood flowed to the ground. "Bastard!" Qin Yin gritted her teeth and flew over. She didn't wait for the dragon serpent to get close, and she directly raised her arm. Battle Qi condensed in the distance, and with a schwa, a golden light burst out, and the god-binding chains broke out from the ground and bombarded the dragon serpent's lower jaw. Immediately, a few large scales flew off, and one could faintly see the dragon serpent's scarlet blood dripping down. Feng Jixing grabbed the dragon serpent's tail, and he held it tightly with one hand while the other held the windcutter saber. He hacked at the dragon serpent's body, and it looked very strange and comical. Hiss, hiss! The dragon serpent's huge body twisted, and it went straight for Qin Yin. It opened its mouth and swallowed her. Qin Yin hurriedly summoned the god-binding chains, and with all her might, she summoned 6 god-binding chains in front of her chest. However, with a purring sound, the dragon serpent still broke through them. The blood-red tongue spat out, and it directly wrapped around Qin Yin's arm, pulling her towards its mouth. "It's over!" Qin Yin's heart instantly turned to ashes. She waved her sword and slashed, but it was impossible to cut through the extremely tough tongue of the dragon serpent. Moreover, the dragon serpent's strength was frightening, and it dragged her towards its frightening bloody mouth. She couldn't help but close her eyes, and tears filled her eyes. She didn't expect that she would still be buried in the dragon serpent's mouth after escaping from the dragon serpent's poison last time. Just when Xianxia was in despair, she suddenly felt a warm feeling under her feet. With a rustling sound, a green gourd vine soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it wrapped around Xianxia's body, trying to pull her back. "You!" She hurriedly turned her head, and saw Lin Muyu rushing over with the burning prairie sword. The gourd surrounded her, and the burning prairie sword was piercingly cold. She brazenly slashed at the thick and long tongue of the dragon serpent. It still couldn't be cut. Even Xianxia's god-binding chains, known as the #1 offensive martial spirit, couldn't cut through the tongue. Naturally, Lin Muyu's 10th grade green gourd couldn't cut through it either. However, Lin Muyu was anxious, and her eyes turned cold. She opened her mouth and bit the dragon serpent's tongue. Pooh! Its teeth were about to break, but it was strange that the tongue could withstand the attack of the god-binding chains, but it seemed to be unable to withstand Lin Muyu's sharp teeth. When it bit again, a fishy taste rushed into its throat. It had bitten through the tongue. Hiss, hiss! The dragon serpent was in pain, and hurriedly retracted its tongue. Meanwhile, Feng Jixing had already taken the opportunity to carry the wind cutter to the side of the dragon serpent. With a spin of the blade, he shouted, "Hot sand gold!" After 3 consecutive slashes, the dragon serpent flew back, but before it could feel proud, the dragon serpent's tail had already mysteriously whipped Feng Jixing's shoulder. With a "kacha" sound, his left arm had already been broken. With a miserable groan, he fell to a corner of the side hall, and his face was deathly pale. "You Highness Een, be careful." "No, the dragon serpent is too fast," Xianxia said. Lin Muyu had already moved forward with her sword, and the wall of the gourd protected the front of Xianxia. As expected, the dragon serpent's devouring attack and whipping tail came one after another. With 3 consecutive bangs, the wall of the winter gourd was instantly shattered, and Lin Muyu felt a sweet taste in her throat as she crashed into the wall behind her. She was in a sorry state. Feng Jixing's broken left arm hung low, and with his right hand holding the blade, he stood up again. His gaze landed on the dragon serpent's neck, and suddenly his eyes lit up. He said, One of the scales on its back has been corroded. It must have been corroded by the Imperial Army's acid. I'll hold the dragon serpent back, and you think of a way to pin it to the ground so that it can't dig or move again." Lin Muyu struggled to get up from the ground, and nodded with a disheveled expression. Not far away, a group of Imperial Army soldiers stood there, but no one dared to go forward. A 10,000-year-old spiritual beast and 3 Heaven Realm elites. This was not a battle that belonged to them, and if they went forward, they would just be cannon fodder. Chapter 162. Streams of wind blades swirled around the wind slasher saber. When the dragon serpent opened its mouth to devour, Feng Jixing suddenly waved his saber and quickly created a hurricane. Instantly, this hurricane directly washed away half of the roof of the side hall. This was one of his famous ultimate moves, Berserk Saber Storm. Every point in the storm seemed to be mixed with the sharpness of an invincible blade. The violent wind swept the dragon snake's head, and in the blink of an eye, the scales on the dragon snake's head were swept away. But it still couldn't break through the armor. Bang! The dragon snake's heavy bite attack was neutralized by Feng Jixing's blade, and he himself vomited blood and fell into the corner of the jagged wall. However, it also seemed to confirm his promise to restrain Lin Muyu. Whoosh! Stepping on the starlight, Lin Muyu forcibly gathered the battle energy around her and used the falling star steps to jump onto the dragon snake's back. She quickly found the wound that Feng Jixing mentioned. However, when she was still a short distance away, the dragon snake had already raised its head and stared at her with a pair of emotionless eyes. I'll restrain it." On the ground, Xianxia let out a soft cry. She suddenly raised her right hand and condensed her left hand into a finger. She lowered her head and muttered to herself, Her battle energy flowed rhythmically, and the long sword hummed. The god-binding chains also began to vibrate rhythmically around her body. That's right, it was a rhythm similar to the sound of a zither. Just like her name, Qin, this sound wave attack turned into a substantial force and went straight for the dragon snake's brain. What? An invisible attack directly penetrated the armor. The dragon snake was instantly stunned. It shook its head frantically and pounced on Qin in the next moment. Bang! Qin spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. She had also lost her sword. Her face was deathly pale, and she had lost the ability to resist. Lin Muyu took advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to leap up. She reached into her cosmos sack and grabbed the hard and cold spear handle. With a wung sound, she pulled it out. A miraculous scene occurred. She pulled out a spear that was at least 2 meters long from the small cosmos sack. It was the pear blossom spear. She held the spear with both hands and thrust it into the corroded wound on the back of the dragon snake. Pooh! Blood splattered everywhere. The spear had pierced a small part of its body, but there was still a large part outside. No matter what, the spear could not pierce through. It was as if there was some kind of defensive layer in the dragon snake's body. Gritting his teeth, he decided to go all out. Leaping up once again, he raised both his fists in the air. Around his fists, streams of celestial bodies condensed, and an incomparably violent strike went straight for the handle of the pear blossom spear. 3 luminaries calamity. Bang! It was a clean strike. The 3 luminaries' power was infused into the spear handle, and the pear blossom spear immediately pierced into the dragon snake's body. With a kacha sound, the spear head had already pierced into the rocks on the ground. He felt a sense of emptiness in his body. After using the 3 luminaries calamity twice in a row, he was almost at his limit. However, when he looked up, he discovered that the front half of the dragon snake's body was crazily twisting as it charged toward Qin. It opened its mouth and was about to swallow this empire's princess. Lin Muyu did not have time to consider anything. He dove down in a few steps and opened his arms to hug Qin. However, it seemed like it was too late. There was a fishy smell behind him, and in the blink of an eye, it was already dark. He and Qin had entered a fishy and dark space. They had been swallowed by a huge snake. Qin was already severely injured. She opened her eyes weakly, but she could not see anything. She could only feel Lin Muyu's warm embrace. She called out softly. Lin Muyu hugged her tightly. Don't open your eyes. The dragon snake has venom in its body, and it will blind your eyes. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. We were just eaten by the snake. It was easy for him to say, but he had long wanted to die. Qin closed her eyes and buried her face in Lin Muyu's neck. However, after the two of them entered the intestines of the dragon snake, there seemed to be barbs on the walls of the intestines, and they kept sliding down. Both she and Lin Muyu knew that if they went any further, there would be a pool of acid. That was where the dragon snake melted its food. In the blink of an eye, the lack of air made it difficult for Qin to breathe. She quickly lost consciousness, and the arm that was hugging Lin Muyu was about to let go. Lin Muyu's heart was in a mess. He could not let Qin die like this. Otherwise, all his efforts would be in vain. He hurriedly used his martial soul. Immediately, the gourd vines passed through the scales of the dragon snake, and the gourd leaves bloomed on the outside, absorbing the fresh air outside. His martial soul and physique merged into one, and the fresh air was absorbed by Lin Muyu in the blink of an eye. In the enclosed space full of the dragon snake's gastric juice and acid, Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's face and kissed her red lips, passing the fresh air to her. Qin Yin's delicate body trembled slightly. Her last consciousness let her know what had happened. Lin Muyu was using his life to save her life. Furthermore, this was her first kiss. Although she liked this man, this space was so inappropriate. Not to mention the fact that they were surrounded by the dragon snake's gastric juice, there was also a pile of broken limbs and blood. She could even feel the corpse of an Imperial Army soldier behind her. No matter how she looked at it, this scene could not be considered romantic. What a pity! The romantic first kiss that a young girl had been looking forward to for 20 years was completed in such a shameful manner. Lin Muyu naturally did not know what Qin Yin was thinking. He and she were still being hooked by the dragon snake's intestines and sent down to the lower layers. They were about to be digested. He hugged Qin Yin tightly with one hand, and his other hand grabbed everywhere. Suddenly, with a puss sound, he seemed to have grabbed onto something as hard as iron. It was the handle of the pear blossom spear, a life-saving straw. He suddenly exerted strength in his arm and slowly spat out his battle chi. He gave an order with his thoughts, and the purgatory chains attacked. Come out, Ice Qilin. The 11,000-year spear spirit Ice Qilin pounced out of the spear with a furious roar. Its sharp claws quickly tore everything in the dragon snake's stomach. Although it was only a short-lived attack, it completely destroyed the dragon snake's internal organs and froze everything around it with frost. This made Lin Muyu and Qin Yin stay here, and they were not sent into the dragon snake's stomach. His strength was quickly overdrawn. This time, even Lin Muyu himself had difficulty breathing. The consecutive bitter battles had almost exhausted all his strength. Fortunately, the surrounding liquid had already frozen. Qin Yin, who was in his arms, was no longer moving. She had fainted, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh at himself. Suddenly, he felt dizzy, and he fainted while hugging Qin Yin. What's going on? A group of Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards rushed into the side hall of the West Courtyard with torches in their hands. Qin Jin walked in surrounded by the crowd, but he was shocked to see the huge dragon snake's corpse lying in front of him. There was still the dragon snake's beast spirit lingering in the air. Qin Jin's heart was in a mess, and he shouted, Xiao Yin, where is she? The maids were so frightened that they did not dare to speak. In the corner, Feng Jixing, who was seriously injured, muttered, Her Highness Yin and you were both swallowed by the dragon snake. Hurry, cut open the dragon snake's abdomen, and they might still be saved. Hurry! Qin Lei, who was covered in blood, leaped forward with the thunder split saber in hand. He fiercely slashed a few times with the saber, but the hard scales of the dragon snake were repelled. Qin Jin gritted his teeth, raised his hand, and threw his sword to Qin Lei. Lei, use my Desolation Sword. The Desolation Sword, a 6th-tier Saint-grade sword, was known as the strongest weapon in Lanyan City. Pa! Qin Lei held the Desolation Sword with both hands and muttered to himself. His god-binding chain's martial soul lingered around the Desolation Sword, and immediately, the Saint-grade sword glowed with a dazzling light. Accompanied by Qin Lei's movements, the sword cut open the dragon snake's scales with a ka-ka-ka sound. In the blink of an eye, a huge bloody hole was torn open, and the scene inside was immediately revealed to everyone. Icy mist rose, and the blood condensed into ice. Amidst the severed limbs, Lin Muyu maintained the posture of holding Qin Yin tightly. He flipped over and landed on the ground from within the dragon snake's abdomen. The white battle robe behind him had already been dyed the color of blood, and there were shards of ice on his face. Qin Yin, on the other hand, buried her face in Lin Muyu's chest, not moving at all. Xiao Yin. Qin Jin's entire body trembled, and tears instantly flowed down his face. Chu Huayin looked at Lin Muyu in pain, and he clenched his fists tightly. However, Qin Lei furrowed his brows and said, Your Majesty, is Her Highness still breathing? Qin Jin took a step forward and wanted to hug Qin Yin, but he was unable to separate her from Lin Muyu's embrace. He hurriedly said, Quickly, melt their ice, and quickly save Her Highness. Chu Huayin flew forward, ignoring the bloody wound on his shoulder. With a low shout, he covered Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's bodies with his palms. His battle energy rapidly increased, and it turned into a warm and gentle force that seeped into their bodies. Among everyone present, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing's power was too overbearing. Only Chu Huayin's power leaned towards the gentle side, and it wouldn't hurt the two who were already sealed in ice. As the ice and snow rapidly melted, Qin Yin gently leaned against Lin Muyu's chest. Her body slowly twitched, and she slowly opened her eyes. She had actually woken up even faster than Lin Muyu. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw that Lin Muyu's eyes were tightly shut, and her face was ashen. Qin Yin thought that Lin Muyu had already died, and she couldn't help but feel sorrow. Tears flowed out of her eyes as she said, You can't die, you. Chu Huayin tugged at her from the side and said, Your Highness. Qin Yin immediately pushed him away angrily. Don't touch me, don't touch me. Chu Huayin angrily touched his nose. Your Highness, you isn't dead yet. He's still breathing. Qin Yin immediately put away her fierce expression and smiled at Lin Muyu. She cupped his face and said, If you aren't dead, can you answer me? Cough, cough. Lin Muyu suddenly coughed violently and coughed out the blood clot in her throat. She frowned and said, Xiao Yin, my chest hurts because of you. Qin Yin looked down and realized that she was in a mess in the dragon snake's stomach. Her clothes were already in disarray, and she no longer looked like a princess. Her clothes had slid down, and her two blood-stained peaks were pressed tightly against Lin Muyu's chest armor. Her figure was already very impressive, and her two peaks were naturally not light. It was no wonder that Lin Muyu would say that her chest hurt. In an instant, the proud princess's face turned red. She scrambled to her feet and tightened her cloak. She said, Hurry up and help you up. Let's see how his injuries are. In the corner, Feng Jixing lay there weakly. His eyes were filled with hidden bitterness as he casually said, Who's more injured than me? Why doesn't anyone care about me? Chu Huayin walked forward. Sai, I'm here to care about you. Go away. Chapter 163. Taking in large mouthfuls of fresh air, Lin Muyu's martial soul's power was like a dried-up pool of water, and at this time, after escaping, it finally began to gather into a stream bit by bit. After about 5 minutes, her complexion looked much better, but the wounds on her body looked a little scary. Qin Jin supported Qin Yin's arm and asked with concern, Xiao Yin, are your injuries serious? Not serious. Father doesn't need to worry too much. Qin Yin tidied up her long hair that was covered in mucus and pouted, but I need to find a place to take a bath. My body is so dirty and uncomfortable. Imperial Father, can I borrow your central courtyard to take a bath? Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. Someone, bring Her Highness to the central courtyard to take a bath. Qin Yin turned to look at Lin Muyu and said, Wait for me to tidy myself up before coming to see you. You are the same, your whole body is dirty, quickly go and take a bath? Yes, Your Highness. Lin Muyu smiled respectfully. Qin Jin raised his eyebrows and said, Someone, bring Lin Muyu to the west courtyard to take a bath and prepare a new set of Imperial Guard armor for him. Yes, Your Majesty. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaijin and the others walked over one after another and asked about Lin Muyu's injuries. He was covered in blood and looked too scary. No matter how they looked, he didn't look fine. Ayu, are you sure you're okay? Chu Huaijin frowned and said, Look at you, it seems like you will die at any time. Don't force yourself. If anything happens to you, I won't be able to explain it to Yao. Don't worry. Lin Muyu patted the broken breastplate on his chest and smiled, My body is fine. All right, I sent a letter to Sister Chu Yao and asked her to warn you guys as soon as possible. Did you guys receive the news? Qin Lei nodded his head. I did receive the news, but it was slightly late. Miss Chu Yao came to inform me on her own. This, you tell her yourself. As he spoke, Qin Lei moved aside. Behind him was shockingly Chu Yao, who was dressed in a pure and clean spirit medicine department attire. Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Older sister, why did you come by yourself? Isn't it possible to pass messages through Yushu? Chu Yao's beautiful eyes were filled with reproach and worry as she said, You're still talking about it? I didn't tame a second messenger bird, so I had to rush here myself. The spiritual medicine department didn't have any extra warhorses, so I spent a month's salary to buy one. I didn't expect you to be ahead of me. Ha! Lin Muyu was slightly embarrassed as she said, There was no other way. I was worried that something would happen in Deer Garden, So I directly went to the Eagle Nest camp and mobilized 300 people to rush over as reinforcements. Not far away, Qin Jin said with an extremely dignified smile, Lin Muyu, it's all thanks to the timely arrival of your 300 men from the Eagle Nest camp. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I and the other ministers would have been buried under the swords of the rebels from the House of Chivalry. Your Majesty has a flood of good fortune. Nothing will happen to you. After saying that, Lin Muyu almost had goosebumps. She thought to herself, when did she learn to say such flattering words? Qin Jin casually said a few words, then led the ministers to the central courtyard to discuss matters. Lin Muyu found the burning prairie sword and forcefully dug out the spirit stone of the 12,300-year-old dragon snake. Then, she pulled out the pear blossom spear from the dragon snake's body, washed it, and put it into her cosmos sack. Then, accompanied by Chu Yao, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing, she went to the western courtyard to take a bath. The few people who had gone through the battle all needed to take a bath and wash up. After all, each of them had a relatively special identity and status. It was a mistake for the people around the emperor to not be properly groomed. Brother Feng, this burrowing dragon, is dead. What about the white crane? Lin Muyu asked as they walked. Feng Jixing muttered to himself, then said, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and the other imperial guards surrounded the white crane. They used all kinds of weapons and even used fire attacks. Finally, they forced the white crane to escape. Now, the white crane's whereabouts are unknown. Oh, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She said, I didn't expect that we actually didn't catch a single leader this time. The white crane escaped, and so did Ji Yang and Li Qianxuan. I've been undercover at the headquarters of the House of Chivalry for so long, but in the end, I still couldn't find their assassination intentions. Is it as simple as changing the ruler of the empire? A cautious look flashed across Feng Jixing's face. He said, this matter. Let's report it to His Majesty later. The House of Chivalry has been making things difficult for us again and again. It's time for us to take action. In the West Court, the bathing spot was actually also a hot spring. This was because this villa was built on a natural hot spring. When Lin Muyu took off her armor, Chu Yao stood at the side. She had no intention of leaving. She looked at the crisscrossed wounds on Lin Muyu's body and frowned slightly. She said, your body? Lin Muyu looked down and couldn't help but smile. She said, it's okay. I'll temper my skin a little and there won't be any scars left. It won't affect my beauty. Don't leave any hidden injuries or partial disabilities. Hurry up and take a bath. After that, come to me. I'll give you a massage. Massage? Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. After taking a bath, she put on a tight-fitting shirt and went outside. Chu Yao was waiting there. She took out her silver needles and pouted. Lie down. Oh, Lin Muyu lay down according to her words. Chu Yao immediately inserted 7 or 8 silver needles into the acupoints. Then she opened her fingers. A faint green true energy was enshrouded between her fingers. It gently flowed through Lin Muyu's meridians. Suddenly, a refreshing and comfortable feeling spread throughout her body. The blockage in her meridians was slowly eliminated by Chu Yao. What kind of treatment is this? Lin Muyu was surprised. She said, Sister Chu Yao, in my hometown, there are many girls who are good at massaging, but there is no one who has such a brilliant technique. Chu Yao chuckled. She said, Idiot you, how is this a massage technique? This is the divine oracle hand recorded in the God of Medicine's tome. It's a superb technique that can cure internal diseases through the skin. As a member of the spiritual medicine department, I naturally can't just learn alchemy. The divine oracle hand is enough to make me an excellent medical officer. Haha, that's great, Lin Muyu said cheerfully. If I have my own army in the future, I'll definitely hire you as the chief medical officer with a high salary. Really? Chu Yao giggled. She said, I'm not only good at alchemy and the divine oracle hand. I've already mastered using fire and wind for your 4 elemental sword control. However, I'm still not good enough with lightning and water. In time, I'll not only be an excellent medical officer, but also an excellent general. Oh, you're quite open-minded. Lin Muyu couldn't help but tease. Chu Yao looked at Lin Muyu's strong muscles and finally blushed. She said, "All right, put on your armor. Your body is basically fine now. Remember to apply medicine." At this moment, Chu Huaying and Feng Jixing had also returned from bathing. Chu Huaying had already put on his armor and was extraordinarily handsome. Chu Yao's older brother was indeed an astonishingly handsome man, but Feng Jixing was less handsome than Chu Huaying and more carefree. He clutched his chest and limped as he said, "Damn, the dragon snake that the pale crane tamed almost crippled me. My cultivation at the second heavenly stage is indeed far from enough." Big brother Feng has reached the second heavenly stage? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. That's right. Feng Jixing raised his hand and waved. Instantly, his battle chi turned into a piece of armor that stopped around his arm. He said with a smile, "Didn't you see the battle armor that I condensed when I was fighting the dragon snake?" "Oh, I didn't pay much attention, brat." Feng Jixing pursed his lips and said with a smile, "That's right. This is all thanks to your dream of the extreme. Otherwise, Qin Lei and I wouldn't have reached the Heavenly King stage so quickly." Thank you so much." "You're welcome. That's right." Dream of the extreme is a recipe that has been lost for a long time. Furthermore, only Medicine King level medicine refiners can refine it. I'm afraid that even Miss Chu Yao might not be able to refine it. "Brat, how many more skills do you have that you haven't shown us?" "Ha." Lin Muyu scratched her head awkwardly. "Everyone has some secrets. Don't ask me about this. Besides, my medicine refinement skills are just some small tricks that aren't worth mentioning. Big brother Feng, don't look into this. I won't harm you guys." And that's true. Feng Jixing lay heavily on the bed. His face was a little pale. Indeed, his injuries were the heaviest. After all, he was the one who had fought the dragon serpent for the longest time. The 12,300-year-old dragon serpent was equivalent to a level 90 Saint Venerable. He, who had just become a level 70 Heavenly Venerable, was able to contend with the dragon serpent without dying. This was already a sign of his strength. Chu Huaying looked up and said, "Yao, heal General Feng's injuries." His martial soul is the purple electric flame wolf. It's an idiot that's only good at attacking but not good at self-healing. It can't be compared to Yu's gourd. Feng Jixing grinned. "Damn it. Whose martial soul are you calling an idiot?" "Your purple marten is the idiot." Chu Yao raised her hand. The purple marten martial soul emerged from her body and stood on her shoulder. She smiled and said, "Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, if you say that the purple marten is an idiot, then I won't heal your injuries." Feng Jixing hurriedly changed his words. He smiled and said, "I'm saying that Chu Huaying's purple marten is an idiot. Miss Chu Yao's purple marten is obviously very smart." Chu Yao giggled. She applied some medicine to Feng Jixing's wounds. Then, she used the Holy Oracle's hand to open up the blockages in his blood vessels and the injuries in his joints. She also bandaged Feng Jixing's wounds and put a splint on his broken arm. Speaking of which, Feng Jixing was indeed a tough guy. His arm had been broken for so long, but it was still hanging on his shoulder. He actually didn't cry out in pain at all. Not long after, an official walked in and said, "Commander Feng Jixing, Lord Chu Huaying, and Lord Lin Muyu, His Majesty has summoned you to the central courtyard to discuss matters. Please follow me." "Yes." Chu Huaying turned around and smiled at Chu Yao. "We'll be back soon. Is Yao waiting for us here?" "No, I'll wait for you outside the central courtyard." "All right." Chapter 164. The main hall of the central garden was the most solemn and dignified hall in the entire Deer Garden Palace. At this moment, many officials had gathered, and the outside of the main hall was heavily protected by the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards. After the assassination attempt by the House of Chivalry, Feng Jixing once again mobilized the nearby 10,000 imperial guards to protect the emperor and princess in Deer Garden. He did not dare to be careless again. The officials stood on both sides. Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and Lin Muyu, who were dressed in white robes and armor, slowly entered the main hall in a triangular formation. They stepped on the blood-red carpet and walked all the way to the place closest to the emperor, Qin Jin. They saluted in unison and said, "Greetings, your majesty." Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced. After entering Lanyan City, she immediately became a soldier. This was a good thing. Even when she saw the emperor, she only needed to salute and did not need to kneel. She was not like those civil officials who knelt at the drop of a hat. They had no moral integrity at all. Qin Jin smiled and nodded. At ease. Qin Yin stood beside her father and smiled at Lin Muyu. She stuck out her tongue when the officials lowered their heads and did not dare to look. As the most beautiful woman in the empire, she was still so beautiful even when she made a face. Chu Huaying could not help but laugh secretly. His shoulders trembled. Feng Jixing immediately turned to look at him and said, "Old Chu, be more serious." Lin Muyu suppressed her smile and looked up at Qin Yin. She raised her eyebrows slightly. Instead, it was the princess who laughed. She did not look serious at all. Cough, cough. Qin Jin turned to look at his precious daughter, but he could not bear to blame her. He coughed and said, "These traitors from the House of Chivalry actually dared to sneak attack Deer Garden in the middle of the night. This is simply outrageous. I have decided to launch a nationwide campaign to exterminate the traitors from the House of Chivalry. I will immediately send a letter to all the provincial governors. I want all the houses of chivalry in the country to be razed to the ground within a month." "Your Majesty is wise." The officials cheered. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and said, "This time, the Saint Realm Ashen Crane actually participated in the rebellion. Fortunately, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and the other generals risked their lives to protect us. Otherwise, Her Highness Yin and I would have been killed." "I understand. The person who contributed the most in this rescue mission is Lin Muyu. If he had not disobeyed Eagle Guard Commander Meng Fong's order and led 300 Eagle Guard warriors to reinforce us, the consequences would have been unthinkable." Looking at Lin Muyu, Qin Jin's eyes were filled with praise as he asked, "Lin Muyu, what kind of reward do you want?" Lin Muyu was startled and said, "Your Majesty, this lowly general has not thought of a reward." The officials laughed loudly, and Qin Jin laughed as well. "You have saved us and the officials, and even risked your life to save Her Highness Yin from the belly of a dragon or snake. You have already established an unparalleled merit. If we do not reward you with something, it would seem that our Qin Empire does not have the heart to select talents and appoint people with ability. Speak. Do you want wealth or an official title?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and thought for a long time. She said, "Your Majesty, I do not lack wealth. As for an official title, I have yet to fully understand the classification of the Empire's official titles, so it is not good for me to ask for anything. Whatever your Majesty wants to give, this lowly general will gladly accept." Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh loudly. "What a good Lin Muyu. Your personality is quite similar to that of Lord Huading Chu Chu." As he spoke, Qin Jin looked at Qin Yin and said, "Xiao Yin, what do you think father should reward Lin Muyu with?" Qin Yin blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "You does not have the experience to lead troops, so it is not suitable for him to be given a high rank. In my opinion, bestow him the rank of Xiang Dragon General. Then, appoint him as the commander of the Eagle Nest Camp and give him the title of Zetian Palace's envoy. What does Imperial Father think?" "Good." Qin Jin smiled and said, "Lin Muyu, do you accept Her Highness Yin's suggestion?" Lin Muyu nodded. I will listen to Xiao Yin." Qin Jin laughed and said in a clear voice, "Lin Muyu, listen to me. We will immediately promote you to Xiang Dragon General and give you the salary of a Xiang Dragon General. You will also be promoted to the commander of the Eagle Nest Camp. That brute Meng Fong will be sent to the border to be a Xiang Dragon General." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed respectfully. Feng Jixing held back his laughter and said, Congratulations. There are a total of 3 commanders in the Royal Guards. 1 for the Dragon Guards, 1 for the Tiger Guards, and 1 for the Eagle Guards. You are now one of the 3 commanders. Your rank is the same as that old brat Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin was the commander of the Dragon Guards. At this point, 2/3 of the Royal Guards were under the control of Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin. After that, Qin Jin also rewarded Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huayin, and the others. The rewards were in the form of Jinin coins, fertile land, and so on. The 3 of them had relatively high ranks of nobility. Lin Muyu stood quietly at the side. In reality, her rank was not enough to attend such a hearing. After all, the Xiang Dragon General was only the 6th rank out of the 14 ranks of the Empire's military. There were still 5 ranks above her, namely Deputy General, Eastern Suppression General, State Protector General, State Suppression General, and Commander General. However, it was already not bad. After all, there were still 8 ranks below her, namely Brigadier General, Feather Colonel, Valiant Cavalry Colonel, Halberd Captain, Sergeant, and Sergeant. Moreover, this Xiang Dragon General was directly under the command of Lanyan City. The central government was much stronger than the local government. The real power in their hands was completely different. A small lieutenant in the central government could be treated as a general in the border army. This was not a rare occurrence. After the rewards, Qin Jin held the Desolation Sword in his hand and said, "Now, let's discuss how to eradicate the rebellious forces of the House of Chivalry." State Protector General Yuanxia stepped out and cupped his fists. "Your Majesty, the House of Chivalry's forces are very complicated in the Empire. They have their headquarters and branches everywhere. It is said that the House of Chivalry can be found in all the major cities in the Empire. The total number of members who are above the level of lone swordsmen has already exceeded 3 million. Therefore, the eradication of the House of Chivalry requires long-term planning." Long-term planning? Qin Lei raised his eyebrows and said, "General Yuan, the henchmen of the House of Chivalry almost killed Your Majesty and Her Highness Yin. Do we still need long-term planning? Tell me, isn't the world the Qin family's world? If Your Majesty says to eradicate them, then they must be eradicated. There is no room for negotiation." Yuanxia was stunned. "Commander Qin Lei, that is not what I mean. I am only saying that this matter needs to be done slowly and cannot be rushed." Qin Jin said, "Stop arguing. Feng Jixing, you are the most reliable and experienced in handling matters. Tell me, what do you think we should do?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and a glint of light flashed across his eyes. "It is very simple. First, eradicate the House of Chivalry within the Lanyan City of the imperial capital. Then, send out elite soldiers and generals to expand outwards. First, pacify the House of Chivalry in the few provinces in the north and maintain the stability of the north. After that, expand to the provinces in the south. No matter how deep the roots of the House of Chivalry are, we will definitely be able to uproot them." Qin Jin nodded and smiled. "All right, then I will leave this matter to you to handle." "Yes." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "I have a presumptuous request. I hope that Your Majesty can agree to it." "Speak. I want 2 people." "Which 2? Qin Jin was stunned. Feng Jixing smiled. "Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin. These 2 imperial guards are smart and capable. If I have their assistance in pacifying the House of Chivalry, I will be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort." "All right, approved." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Feng Jixing was overjoyed. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and said softly, "If you want people so badly, why don't you ask whether Brother Chu Huayin and I are willing? Do you still have any human rights?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said in a low voice, "Rascal, Brother Feng needs your help now. If you don't help me, who else will? Besides, I, Feng Jixing, am on a mission to annihilate the House of Chivalry. Do you know how many people are waiting to see me make a fool of myself? If I fail, I might be impeached. I might not even be able to keep my position as the commander of the Imperial Guards." Lin Muyu snickered. That's perfect. You can join my mercenary group and be a 10-man squad leader. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Feng Jixing was speechless. Chu Huaying cupped his fists and snickered. It looks like the two of you are not ordinary people. Feng Jixing was speechless. Lin Muyu was speechless. After the meeting, the emperor announced that the meeting was dismissed and that they would return to Lanyan City in the afternoon. The officials dispersed. Lin Muyu was about to leave when an attendant suddenly walked up to her and said with a smile, "Lady Lin Muyu, His Majesty invites you to the rear hall to speak." Lin Muyu followed him. When she arrived at the rear hall, Qin Jin and Qin Yin were both there. Qin Yin was still dressed like a princess, but Qin Jin had taken off his dragon robe and was dressed in plain clothes. He said with a smile, "Lin Muyu, do you know why I have summoned you here?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu answered honestly. Qin Jin smiled. "I heard that you lost your memory when you were in Silver Fir City. You don't remember who you are or who your family is. What about now? Do you still remember?" Lin Muyu was taken aback. She replied, "I still don't remember." "Good." Qin Jin waved his sleeves and said with a smile, "I want to adopt you as my son. How about it?" Adopted son? Lin Muyu was stunned. Dragons seeking forest. Before dawn, the mountain was cold and cheerless. Accompanied by rustling sounds, an old man emerged from a nameless cave. His face was covered in dirt, and he carried a bamboo basket on his back. The basket was filled with rare herbs. He had a smug look on his face as he chuckled. "I've even found a grade 8 herb. Let's see if that brat you still dares to mock me, Chu, for not knowing anything about medicine." He strode as if he was flying, heading straight for Deer Cry Park. At this moment, the sound of hooves could be heard from the foot of the mountain. A black warhorse was galloping on the mountain path with its scorching breath. On the warhorse, an old man was holding an iron staff in his hand. His entire body was covered in blood, and his white hair and beard were stained with blood. Without a doubt, this blood belonged to the royal guards and royal army. Song Baihe only had less than 30% of his fighting aura left in his body. His eyes were a little dazed, and his face was full of hatred. He muttered to himself, "I didn't expect Qin Lei to have stepped into the second level of the heavenly realm. Damn Qin Lei, damn God-binding chains. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid I would have already succeeded. It's just a pity that my dragon snake is gone just like that." However, at this moment, a scorching hot domain suddenly appeared in the air. Song Baihe raised his head abruptly and saw a huge flaming palm descending from the sky. The powerful pressure of the Saint Realm descended, and at the same time, Chu Chu's dignified voice could be heard. "Song Baihe, you could have taken the road to heaven, but you chose to barge into the doorless hell." Chapter 165. Adopted Son? Lin Muyu looked at Qin Jin in bewilderment. Qin Jin smiled faintly. "Actually, the real reason is that you saved Xiao Yin twice, so we have decided to let Xiao Yin recognize you as her sworn brother. However, if you are unwilling, then forget it." Qin Yin stood in front of Lin Muyu, her hands crossed in front of her. Her beautiful eyes shone with hope, yet she did not dare to look at Lin Muyu. By the time Qin Jin finished speaking, her pretty face was already completely red. Lin Muyu was startled, but did not think too much about it. She smiled and said, "Then let's do it. Having a younger sister like Her Highness Yin is my life's greatest wish." "Is that so?" Qin Jin could not help but smile. "Then from now on, you are my, Qin Jin's, adopted son, and a member of the Qin family. Are you willing to change your surname to Qin?" "Can I not change it?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Jin laughed heartily. "Many thanks to your majesty for granting my wish." Qin Jin was clearly in a good mood. He placed his palm on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, You are a talent. From now on, you will be a member of the family. A member of the Qin family who does not share the same surname will bring you courage and glory. However, you must also pledge your loyalty and oath to the family. Go, Xiao Yin will help you take the oath to join the family. After that, I will have someone write your name into the Qin family's genealogy book." From the side, Qin Yin walked over with a smile and reached out to hold Lin Muyu's hand. When their fingers interlocked, the warmth from Qin Yin's little hand caused Lin Muyu to be a little dazed. Qin Yin's face was also bright red as she said, I will have to call you Big Brother from now on, and then, Big Brother Yu, come with me." "All right." In a corner of the rear hall, the memorial tablets of the family's ancestors were enshrined. In the most conspicuous position, there was a memorial tablet with the words, "Founding Emperor Qin Yi's Memorial Tablet," written on it. Lin Muyu couldn't help feeling a little surprised. She asked, "Xiao Yin Qin, how many years has it been since he passed away?" Qin Yin was stunned and said, "Qin Yi was our ancestor and the first master of the Qin Empire to step into the divine state. With his divine state strength and military strategy, he united the 11 countries on the mainland that had been at war for many years and created the prosperity of the Qin Empire. It is said that he retired after the founding of the empire and then went on a spiritual journey for thousands of years. So, here is his memorial tablet." "So that's how it is." Lin Muyu couldn't help but recall the scene when she transmigrated to this dimension. She saw Qin Yi leading hundreds of immortal state and sanctuary powerhouses to fight the 7 luminaries' demon emperor. Qin Yi was indeed dead at that time. He was devoured by the power of the 7 glorious stars transformation. Thinking about it, this memorial tablet was indeed suitable to worship. "All right, Big Brother Yu, kneel properly." Qin Yin and Lin Muyu knelt together in front of the memorial tablet of the empire's ancestors. The smile on her face disappeared and she said very seriously, "The family has 32 words, which is also the foundation and family rule for the Qin family to be able to dominate the mainland. I say one sentence, and Big Brother you will say one sentence after Xiao Yin, okay?" Lin Muyu nodded lightly. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and scattered the princess cloak behind her. Her beautiful eyes looked at the memorial tablets one after another, yearning and confusion in her eyes. Then, she said one word at a time, calm and unperturbed, no matter when or where, fearless in the face of danger and indifferent to favor or disgrace, revenge must be taken. A gentleman is modest, but if there is an enemy, he must take revenge, rather die than submit. Life and death are up to the heavens. A proud and unyielding character will never live without purpose. Be open-minded like a valley, like flowing water and floating clouds, supercilious and caring for the world. A promise is worth its weight in gold. A promise must be kept, words must be spoken cautiously, and words must be said. Take the lead, valiant in battle, leading the charge and breaking through enemy lines. Be courteous to the wise, holding a high position, being humble and able to convince people with virtue, unswervingly loyal, wholeheartedly serving the country, treading on blades and drinking blood without regrets. 32 words of proverb were, in fact, keep calm, seek revenge, rather die than surrender, be open-minded, keep your word, take the lead, be courteous, and be loyal. Lin Muyu carefully thought about these 32 words. There had to be a reason why the Qin family was able to survive for so long. These 32 words indeed represented a kind of spirit. In other words, these 32 words represented a kind of civilization. It was just that when it was put into practice, it had gone astray. That was why there was such unreasonable things as the concubine system. After saying this, Qin Yin stood up, held Lin Muyu's shoulder, and said with a smile, "Big Brother Yu, from now on, you are a member of our Qin family. Always remember the family's teachings." "Yes, I will." Lin Muyu nodded. These 32 words were indeed worthy of being his code of conduct. Moreover, he would carry them out to the letter. This was his attitude. Qin Jin watched all of this from the back, and said with a smile, "All right, since you is now a member of our family, then, why don't you stay for breakfast?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Jin was immediately displeased and said, "Since we have already recognized you as my godson, why don't you change the way you address me?" Lin Muyu was stunned, and then felt that it was a little awkward, so she said, "What should I call you?" Qin Yin burst into laughter. Call me father after me. Lin Muyu. In the end, he still called him father, like Qin Yin, which made Qin Jin smile happily. His face was full of wrinkles, and this emperor was only close to 50 years old, but his face was already showing signs of age. Firstly, it had to do with his insufficient cultivation, and secondly, it was probably because he had been tormented to this extent by the affairs of this huge empire. Although Qin Jin was weak, he was definitely not a fatuous emperor, so it wasn't like she had recognized a traitor as her father, right? Lin Muyu thought to herself. Breakfast couldn't be considered too sumptuous, and there were only a few side dishes. However, after a busy night, Lin Muyu's stomach was already rumbling with hunger. She picked up the beef buns from the bowl and ate them in big bites, causing Qin Yin and Qin Jin to chuckle at the side. Qin Jin pushed the plate of beef buns in front of Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Eat more if you like it. When we return to Lanyan City, Father will personally cook for you and make beef buns from the White Cloud Tavern. I guarantee that they will be even better than the ones made by the head chef of the White Cloud Tavern." Lin Muyu was stunned. "Father, you know how to cook?" Qin Yin giggled. Don't you know that Father is known for having two talents? The first is poetry and painting, and the second is culinary skills. Let me tell you, even the best imperial chef in Zetian Palace can't cook as well as Father. Brother, you have to come back to Zetian Palace often, or else you won't have a chance to taste Father's cooking. Then, all right. He was still trembling with fear and trepidation. As the saying went, being in the emperor's company was like being with a tiger. Was the current Qin Jin still the same tiger-like emperor? Or was he his adoptive father now? Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs? Lin Muyu didn't understand, and she didn't understand. She would just take it one step at a time. Regardless of whether it was good or bad now, at least she had a home in this world. With a father like Qin Jin who was skilled in culinary skills and poetry, and a younger sister like Qin Yin who was sometimes unruly and sometimes considerate, it seemed like it wasn't bad at all. After a short rest in the morning, she followed the team back to Lanyan City in the afternoon. In Zetian Palace, during an afternoon meeting with the officials, Qin Jin publicly announced that he would recognize Lin Muyu as his adopted son. This instantly caused a huge commotion, and the officials were all stunned. It seemed like the Qin family hadn't had an emperor recognize an outsider as his adopted son for many years. The current Lin Muyu was already considered a proud son who was doted on by everyone. They really didn't know where this brat got his luck from. "Congratulations, Lord Lin Muyu." "Congratulations, General." "Congratulations, Lord, on becoming a member of the family." One by one, the officials congratulated Lin Muyu, and at the same time, he saw the person he didn't want to see the most. Xing Yifan had also arrived, and he was still in good spirits. He smiled and said, "Congratulations, General Lin Muyu, on becoming His Majesty's adopted son. This is truly worthy of celebration. You're too kind, Divine Marquis. Now that General is His Majesty's adopted son, your future is bright. In the future, please take care of a small marquis like me." Xing Yifan squinted his eyes and said with a smile. Lin Muyu frowned and said with a smile, "Divine Marquis, you're too polite. You're the cornerstone of the empire. I'm just a boorish fellow." Pet. Xing Yifan sneered and walked away. He put on a "you're right" look. Feng Jixing frowned as he looked at Xing Yifan's back. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, To be honest, I'm really envious of you. I've served His Majesty for so many years, but I've never had such a rare encounter. You're the first adopted son of His Majesty, and the Qin family has never accepted descendants with other surnames. You can be considered a pioneer." "Big Brother Feng, are you really congratulating me?" Lin Muyu asked in a low voice. Feng Jixing moved closer and also lowered his voice. He smiled and said, "I don't know why His Majesty accepted you as his adopted son, but at least it shows that he values your strength. That's enough." Lin Muyu was taken aback. Was he just making use of her? No matter whether it was using me or being sincere, Lin Muyu had his own judgment. At least he could confirm that Qin Yin really liked him. That was enough. He could not protect the empire, but at least he could protect Qin Yin. At this moment, an attendant's voice suddenly came from outside the hall. Lord Chu Chu requests an audience. Everyone was stunned and quickly separated into two sides. Chu Chu strode into the hall with a black bundle in his hand. He had a faint smile on his face as he arrived at the bottom of the steps. He cupped his fists and said, "This old man, Chu Chu, came late to the rescue. Please forgive me, Your Majesty." Qin Jin was a virtuous monarch. He smiled and said, "Chu Chu, you don't have to be like this. It's good that you're back. All right, did you pick the herbs you wanted?" "I did." Chu Chu's lips curled up. He smiled and said, "Moreover, I had an unexpected harvest that I wanted to present to Your Majesty." "Oh, what is it?" Qin Jin asked with a smile. Chu Chu immediately knelt on one knee and put down the bundle in his hand. He opened it layer by layer. When he opened the last layer, it was a bloody head. Moreover, the head's beard and hair were all white and stained with blood. Even its eyes were wide open, as if it had died with a grievance. Chu Chu turned around and looked at Xing Yifan provocatively. He then cupped his fists and said, "This old man encountered that old thief, Ashen Crane, when I was descending the mountain. I took care of him and presented his dog's head to Your Majesty." Qin Jin was overjoyed. Good. Chu has already made a great contribution. In an instant, Zheng Yifan's face turned extremely pale and ugly. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.